we're working, two steps in the past right now. Okay.
Video and noise check, please.
We hear you loud and clear.
Perfect, thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is 1:30, and so we are going to get this meeting started. I will start by calling the meeting to order, and I would like to recognize that we're conducting our business today on the traditional territories of the Tayshat and Huipachesset. Also recognizing that online there are a number of people coming from numerous different territories, and just want to take a moment to show both acknowledgement and appreciation for that. I will provide a notice to participants that the meeting is being recorded and live streamed to the Regional District website. And so before we get started today, we're going to do a round of introductions, those people that are around the table here. We'll go online, and for those who might be a bit confused as to why I'm opening the meeting, I will just flag that today's our annual election for chair and vice chair, and until the chair and vice chair are elected today, I will run the meeting with Heather Zenner. So I will start to my right, Heather.
Good afternoon. I'm Heather Zenner, Manager of Administrative Services.
Good afternoon. Aklama Penny Cote. I'm the Electoral Area Director for Sprout Lake.
Good afternoon. I'm Mike Sparrow, Electoral Area Director for Cherry Creek.
Hi, I'm John. I'm John Jack. I'm the Director for Hawaii First Nations.
And good afternoon, Alex Dyer, General Manager of Planning and Development.
Good afternoon, Jenny Brown, General Manager of Community Services.
Good afternoon, Susan Roth, Beaver Creek Electoral Area Director. Thank you.
Yes, good afternoon, Councillor Tom Steer, Appointed Director, District of Tofino.
Moving to online, I'll start with Debbie.
Good afternoon, everyone. My apologies for not being there in person today. My name is Debbie Haggard, and I am a councillor for the City of Port Alberni and appointed representative to the ACRD board.
Thank you. Veda.
Veda Sega, Director for Area C, Long Beach.
And Bob.
Good afternoon, everyone. Bob Beckett, representing Banfield Area A.
Thank you. Fred.
Fred Boyko, Electoral Area Director for Beaufort.
Thank you. Shari.
Shari Minions, Mayor for the City of Port Alberni and Director. Thank you.
Thanks. Marilyn.
Good afternoon, everyone. Marilyn McEwen, Mayor of Ucluelet.
Thank you. And Kirsten.
Afternoon, everyone. Representative for the Tokwat Nation on the board.
Fantastic. Thank you. But we already got Fred. Yeah, perfect. And I am Daniel Siam, the CAO for the ACRD. And with that, I will hand it over to Heather to conduct the elections.
Great. Thank you, Daniel. Okay, so the election of the chair and vice chair of the board is conducted at the first board meeting in November annually. Election of the chair and vice chair are in accordance with the Regional District Procedures Bylaw. The chair of the regional board will be the vice chair of the regional hospital district board, and the vice chair of the regional board will be the chair of the regional hospital district. The executive assistant, Janice Hill, and I will conduct the election of chair and vice chair for the board for 2025 and 2026. As the board meeting is being held in a hybrid format, those attending in person will be provided a paper ballot to cast their votes, and those attending by Zoom will be asked to vote by emailing me confidentially at hzenner@acrd.bc.ca. Janice and I will conduct the voting and announce the results. So should there be an election, nominees will be given 3 minutes to outline why he or she should be chosen for the position. Following the speeches, the votes will be conducted. In the event that there are two or more candidates, in the event that there are more than two candidates and no candidate receives a clear majority of votes, the candidate receiving the least number of votes shall be deleted and a second ballot shall be taken. In the event that there is two tie votes, draw by lot will be conducted. So we'll start with the election of the chair. So I'd like to call for nominations of chairperson of the ACRD Board of Directors for 2025-2026 for a first time. Director Beckett?
Thank you. I'd like to nominate John Jack for chair.
Director Jack, do you accept the nomination? Thank you. So I will call for nominations for chairperson for the regional board for a second time. And finally, I would call for nominations for chairperson of the ACRD board for a third time. So there being no further nominations, I declare Director Jack the chairperson of the ACRD board and the vice chairperson of the ACRD hospital district for 2025-2026. So we'll now move on to the election of vice chairperson. So I would like to call for nominations of vice chairperson of the ACRD Board of Directors for 2025-2026 for a first time. Director Cote?
Thank you. I'd like to nominate Director Haggard.
Director Haggard, do you accept the nomination?
Yes, I will. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'll call for nominations for vice chairperson for the ACRD Board of Directors for a second time. And I will call for nominations for vice chairperson of the ACRD board for a third time. So there being no further nominations, I declare Director Haggard the vice chairperson of the ACRD board and chairperson of the ACRD Regional Hospital District for 2025-2026. Thank you. So I'll invite Director or Chair Jack up to carry on.
All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. We're conducting our meetings today on a hybrid format. We've already done the introductions, and we've recognized the territories of the Hoopatiscit and Mississauga First Nations. We appreciate doing our business there. We do have before us the approval of the agenda. We do have one piece of late material to add to the agenda, and that went out by email. And I can't remember what the reference was to.
It was related to item 10.1C of the temporary use permit for Doroko on Fletcher Road. There was a neighbor letter.
Yeah, okay. So that's there. Are there any other additions to the agenda? And if not, we can move the agenda as amended. I think. Thanks. Director Beckett moves. Seconded by Dr. Steer. Thank you. Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? All opposed? Okay, motion carried. Thank you. Okay, so that brings us into declarations. Does anyone have any conflicts of interest, apparent conflicts of interest, or gifts exceeding $250 in value? I don't think there are any. So we can move on to the adoption of minutes, of which there are 4. First item is the Board of Directors meeting minutes for October 22nd, 2025. Dr. Cote, please go ahead.
Thank you. I'll move adoption, but I have a couple of questions.
Please go ahead.
So on page 10, we had a delegation from Ministry of Transportation regarding Highway 4 and Cathedral Grove. I've heard from residents from Sprout Lake area and others regarding the information that came forward from Mr. Pearson and Ms. Schneider regarding that there was going to be nothing, no plans to look at an overpass or anything, any improvements to Cathedral Grove. I continue to get calls regarding safety concerns of that park. I think that it's up to the regional district to press forward with Ministry of Transportation and lobby for some improvements there, or have them, if they can't make the park safe for everyone, then they should shut it down. I'm not asking for that to happen. I'm asking for the improvements. But if they can't fix it, they need to do something. So that's number one. So I'm asking that we reach out to Ministry of Transportation regarding any improvements that they can make, because not doing anything is not satisfactory. And second, on page 11 of the minutes, we did receive a letter from Rebecca Terapaki regarding wildfire suppression aircraft. Did we reply? Is my question. And if we haven't, could we please send a thank you letter? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Cote. On the item regarding Cathedral Grove, I believe we'll be sending out a letter with some of those thoughts directly fairly soon. I just approved a draft. I think we had a motion to that effect at the last meeting, or maybe the previous one. Also, yesterday I had a meeting with the newly elected chair of the regional district of Nanaimo, and this is something he wanted to speak with us about. So maybe what we do is we set up a meeting between him and I, Daniel and Doug, and if you want to come, then please go ahead. We might just do it online. Yeah. And I don't know the answer to a reply to Rebecca, so I think that she probably did not receive one. So we'll make sure that that happens. We'll do that as maybe a motion after the adoption of these minutes. We'll just say that I seconded them.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm moving that we adopt the minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So moved, and then I'll second them. Any further comments? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor? All opposed? Okay, motion carried. And then would you like to move the MOTT or the reply to Mr. or Mrs. Terapaki?
So moved.
Thank you. Seconded by? Thank you, Dr. Roth. Any further comments? Seeing none. All those in favor? All opposed? Okay, motion carried. Thank you. All right, next item in the minutes is the Committee of the Whole meeting minutes for October 22nd, 2025. Thank you, Dr. Steer. Moving. Do we have a seconder? Dr. Sparrow, thank you. Any further comments? Seeing none. All those in favor? All opposed? The motion carried. Thank you. Next up is item C, the Transportation Advisory Committee meeting minutes for November 5th, 2025. Moved by Dr. Beckett. Seconded by Dr. Roth. Any further comments? Dr. Cote, please go ahead.
Thank you. Question to those that attended that meeting. Was the presentation from Ministry of Transportation the same one that was to the regional district? Thank you.
Please go ahead.
No, the presentation that was made was regarding the emergency routes, the evaluation that was done and the report that was completed in July. We were supposed to receive it to the Transportation Committee in August, but we were busy with the wildfire. So that was delayed until just this last meeting. They provided an overview of the options, and I think it's fair to say that there was a really good and constructive discussion around options moving forward and recommendations coming from the committee.
Any further comments? And seeing none, moved and seconded, I think. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. And finally, we have the Emergency Program Executive Committee meeting for November 5th, 2025.
Move adoption.
Thank you, Director Steer, seconded by Director Roth. Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? All opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, so that brings us to petitions, delegations, and presentations. Looks like we have a couple. So normally we do 10-minute maximum for the delegations and presentations. If you're pretty close to getting done by that time, though, we'll probably just let that skirt and give you the extra time. But if it doesn't look like you're finished, I'll probably hold up 2 or 1 finger telling you how much time you have left. Or I may just hit pause, interrupt you, and see if the board is okay with you continuing on. If your presentation goes beyond 10 minutes, you do not have to go to 10 minutes if you don't want to. And we usually let you talk longer if you want. So that being said, we do have 2 individuals. So we have Mr. Alex Sam. If you want to come up first, please go ahead. And don't forget to hit the button to talk on the podium. Thank you and welcome.
Hello, my name is Alex Sam or Alexander, depends on who you're talking to. I'm Alex Sam. I'm a Sprout Lake firefighter at Sprout Lake. I just doing my training, my 1001 training, and through that I got asked by my chief, Mike Ken, to come to the UBCM conference through Penny. I accepted. I was really curious of what it was about. And yeah, so that I went down to Victoria and stayed the week there and went to the conference, went to the Heart of the Community conference talk with the Minister of Health, Josie. I got to talk to her a bit after she presented. It was quite nice meeting her. Then I forget the other one. It was the Disordered Downtown one. That was very informational. I really liked that one. It gave a new perspective on how we deal with the disordered downtown situations in everyone's communities. And a lot of people spoke about what's going on in their individual communities. And as a first responder that deals with this on day to day, not as much as Port Alberni, but in Sprout Lake we do deal with it. It gave a little bit new perspective of how to handle that stuff and if there what action we can do. I really like that. And fortunately I got to meet most of you guys there on the board. So it was exciting to meet you guys. Really cool for me to do that. I was never expecting me to be there, but it was a cool moment. During the event, I made a lot of connections. With being a Sprout Lake firefighter in the fire department, I got to meet the head of BC Wildfire there and made some connections. And we've made some plans of training within the Sprout Lake Fire Department and hopes that goes well. What else? We got to sit on a meeting with Ravi Parmar, the Minister of Forest, just to sit on it and to see what it goes on in those meetings. It was really cool. We got to met him. I met a couple of the deputy minister and also the head of BC Wildfire. I think it's the assistant deputy minister of it, I believe his title is. That was really cool. And what else? Just the people I've met were really cool and had a really big impact during a dinner. I met Georgia Anderson, the Parliament Secretary of Transit and Transportation. Me and him had a good conversation, and he introduced me to a lot of the people that were there, like the other ministers. One good impression was the minister of post-secondary. Me and her had a brief talk, but not much. But it was just the impact of me meeting her. I would never expected to meet anyone in that position, and it was really cool to go talk to him, and I got to pick his brain about what it was like to be in politics. And yeah, that was all of everything.
All right, well, thank you so much. We'll go with Director Cote and then Director Roth.
Thank you. Through the chair. Alex, thank you so much for coming in and giving a briefing, a presentation of what you experienced at UBCM. I'm like a proud mother sitting here. It's a little crazy, but really, I'm very proud of you. I think you utilized your time at UBCM so well. I don't know anybody else who's met all the ministers and the premier and done everything that you did and made all those connections. And yeah, it's been such a worthwhile support from this regional district to have you go. And yeah, good on you. Thank you so much for attending.
Thank you, Penny.
Thanks.
Thank you. And I too agree with everything that Penny said. You did awesome.
Thank you.
I'm just wondering, when you were with the Minister of Forest, did you ask him to ban raw log exports?
Didn't think it was my place to say.
But also, I think you do great as an elected official, and I'd really want to support you going down that road. So think about it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Especially after that answer to that question. That was very good, very practiced. Dr. Haggard, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Jack. First of all, I want to thank you for your service, for being a firefighter. That's very commendable. And congratulations for attending UBCM. I know sometimes I go and I'm intimidated, so it can be a very intimidating process. So thank you for going and making so many contacts. And I was going to echo what Director Ross said. Keep in the back of your mind about perhaps running in the next election. Director Cote keeps saying she's going to retire. Whether she actually is or not, we'll wait and see. But keep it in the back of your mind. It's a great experience, and we'd love to have you on board. So congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Any further comments or questions? On behalf of the board, it was a pleasure having you come with us. And if you want to come back, I'll see about a way at bringing Andy next time. We'll go from there.
That would be awesome. Thank you.
Have a good one. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Okay. So with that in mind, that brings us to Ms. Shannon Summersides from Herald Engineering, helping to present our linear asset assessment. Thank you and welcome.
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. My presentation I put together just to sort of summarize the work and kind of explain the strategy around what we are trying to do with the assessments and the inventory work. Okay, so just a quick introduction on me. My name's Shannon. I've been a structural engineer for about 10 years now, working on the island for about 8 of those. I started off in Nanaimo and now I live out in Ucluelet, out on the west coast. So it's really fun to be out there and we get to do some really interesting projects. So I mostly do bridges and marine infrastructure with some other industrial applications as well. Yeah, and these are just some photos of some of the projects I've been working on recently. Okay, so we're going to just sort of dive into the scope of the work that we did for this project. We were retained by the GIS company to help out the ACRD and go out into these trails and find all the infrastructure that's out there. It was kind of a mystery in some places as to how many bridges were out there for real and all that good stuff. So I hiked all these beautiful trails, and it's like a very beautiful place to live and play for sure. So I hiked them all and I located all of the bridges. And there's a real mixed bag of infrastructure here. There's some that are really remote. There are some that are super accessible to the community. There's a really diverse group of users as well, like experienced hikers, new hikers, recreational vehicle users, equestrian. So yeah, so it's a lot of different people using these structures. All the structures are unique. They're almost all different. And that was really interesting for me, but it makes maintenance and, you know, keeping up with their condition a bit more challenging. And also the arrangement of the structural system was different for a lot of them. There were some very creative systems that have been put in place, and then there was some more conventional bridges that we're used to seeing. So just a brief summary on each trail. We'll kind of go through this quickly because I want to spend a lot of time on like the risk assessment and that sort of stuff. So the Alberni Inlet Trail, approximately 28 kilometers of trail, and out and back style. So you're walking out and then you're coming back. There's a few spots where you can kind of duck out of the trail, but for the most part, once you commit, you're committed for like a good 4 kilometers or more. It was fairly challenging. There were some very steep sections and you're in a remote place. So like, you know, evacuation becomes maybe an issue because there were some areas that were steep and remote. Yeah, primarily used by recreational hiking, I believe, across a couple logging roads. And we did the assessment through 6 months. It's a long trail, and weather and different things kind of made for a longer assessment timeline. Dixon Park. So this one was super accessible, really easy to get to. Just head in and walk down a fairly easy hill. There's one bridge structure sort of upland of Sprout Lake, and then there was one marine asset, so a dock floating out there, which ends up submerged, and well, the pilings are submerged in the wintertime. So you can't really get there. Like it floods almost up to the bridge structure, which is the little orange squiggly in the trees, and then the purple and yellow is the marine structure out in the water. Again, recreational access, both from land, but also I believe from the water for vessels and things. We did this in one day, June. Evergreen Park, one bridge structure, a fairly new aluminum truss structure, pretty easy walk out to the bridge. And this one, my understanding was it's used by hikers, equestrian riders and horses, and then recreational vehicles. And this was done Grappler Street Wharf. So this one was a fun one in Bamfield. It's a really typical sort of small craft harbors facility, treated timber, fixed pier, walkway to a gangway, floating structures. The fire department has a boathouse out there, so we did a review of that float, and a quick review of the boat launch there. Access again from land and also from the water. Pretty frequent use as well for people going to the west side and back often. Oh yeah, some challenges with accessibility on this one. So these marine facilities have a lot of like risk just with the way that they're constructed. So things are moving, things can lift and tip side to side if you're thinking about floating structures. Just inherent risks with using these kinds of things. The gangway can be quite steep at a lower tide. They often are slippery in the cold and wet, which we get a lot of here. Log train trail. I did this one on my bike, and that was pretty fun. So yeah, 11 bridge structures, some pretty creative construction. My understanding is a lot of it was built by volunteers in the community, and then some forestry bridges that you guys have inherited from Mosaic, I think. Yeah, it was a railway grade it was about 20 kilometers with various access points. And this one, again, being used sort of the same way as Evergreen Park. recreation horses and recreational vehicles. And Maplehurst Trail. So this one has 4 very simple timber bridges. It's a pretty beautiful 4-kilometer loop, and it is a little bit rugged in places, a little bit steep. You're walking by some like cliff sections, and definitely for hiking. Couldn't get in there with anything else, I don't think. And we just did it on November 5th. Okay, so I touched a little bit on some of the complexity around these sorts of structures, because I'm sure as you read the reports, you might have read some of the recommendations and thought they were pretty like extreme or maybe overkill for what these structures are being used for. So we want to talk about like risk of having these structures and maintaining these structures and how you can kind of manage that. So for things that kind of make it complex, there's a couple different categories. So accessibility, as I was saying, remote access, needing to get somebody out of there in an emergency and the cost implications of that. You know, if it's out there and you don't ever look at it, you don't know what condition it's in. Could go a couple years before it ends up getting looked at. And then there are inherent risks to these structures. Obviously, they're out in the elements, slippery. There are some bridges that are really spanning over a long distance and they deflect quite a bit when you're walking on them, stuff like that. And then a lot of the bridges don't have appropriate guarding, so which is typical for trail bridges, but is something to think about when the bridges are higher off the ground. And then to increase the complexity again, the user groups that we have, right? So we have experienced to novice hikers, equestrian loads. So I pulled some just some data out of our design standards, and these are sort of the orders of magnitude that we're looking at when we're designing a bridge for like horse use by horses or use by recreational vehicles. And the loads are somewhat punishing, right? And a lot of these structures and some of the structural failures that we saw are likely because they're deteriorated or not robust enough to accommodate some of these loads. So I touched on material variety, and then the arrangement variety. So like some of the bridges are missing key elements, like an abutment. So it's not secured to the shoreline or the, right? Bracing, plan bracing. So one of the items that you guys were looking for was maybe like a comment on the seismic capacity of some of the bridges, and that would be like plan bracing and things like that. Again, probably not high priority for like a recreational trail bridge, but we did note it. So, and then guarding again. Some of the structures were really robust. The logging bridges are super robust for what they're being used for now. And then there was some structures that were really not quantifiable. So, you know, like natural log sections that we don't know the grade of, or we don't know the internal condition of, or things like that. There was a couple bridges that had a vehicle frame rather than, say, joists or beams running from one side to the other. So again, a hard thing to quantify when you're trying to evaluate the appropriateness of your bridge for what it's being used for. Yeah, and then you guys had some really robust and appropriate structures, logging bridges, as I mentioned, but you do have quite a few aluminum truss bridges that are perfect for this sort of application. They don't require a lot of maintenance. The material stays really nice in all the weather. Yeah, and they're prefabricated, so it's easy to install. All right, so when we assess this as engineers, we obviously have to look at it to a certain standard. So these are the standards that I used to kind of provide recommendations or to make comments on deficiencies. Obviously, some of them are quite extreme, like a highway bridge code design guideline would be like overkill for this, but they do have areas of the code where you can evaluate existing structures for both pedestrian and vehicle loads, like recreational vehicles and things like that. So it is appropriate and allows for a standardized comparison. And then we use AASHTO for some design of pedestrian bridges, like the trusses and things like that. We also use the Ministry of Transportation Forestry Bridge Design Guidelines. AASHTO is a American standard, I believe, and it's really similar to our bridge code. They just have different design vehicles. So they have some that are smaller, like the bridge code has like vehicle trains and big things that would be on a highway. AASHTO kind of is more helpful for smaller vehicle loads like the ATVs and things like that. And then at our site visits, we took measurements of everything. We took photographs, and we did some non-destructive testing, probing of like timbers if they looked soft, or probing like hollow pilings and things like that. And then we did a brief sort of high level look at the seismic and load rating considerations for each one. So would this be a bridge that we would want to do a load rating on? So we actually know what can go on it. Or is this bridge like, that's not something we're worried about with this bridge. So some of the bridges have a little bit of language around that because it would be appropriate to load rate them. And then we help to develop these checklists, and the goal of the checklist is then annual maintenance can happen, and you can see what was happening with the condition last year, do some maintenance, go out, have someone assess it. Not an engineer, it could be just somebody like a maintenance person, go out, have a look at it, and write what they think for that year and what needs to happen. And then it allows you to sort of strategize your repairs instead of getting surprised. Yeah. So a big part of the reports is the risk assessment that we did. So we really wanted to quantify the risk. And for the structural side, it's really based on the condition of the structural element and what's going to happen if it fails. So maybe talk about risk mitigation at the end. I'm just going to go ahead. So we created a risk matrix, and one of the axes is the condition of the structure. So here's sort of a description of the condition that we would have reported on. So very good would be an as new condition, no repairs, no deterioration. Good would be like superficial deterioration, surface rust on steel elements, or like a little bit of growth on timbers or something like that. And we're not worried about it structurally. Fair would be like moderate amounts of damage. So if you found a piling and it was like really worn, say mooring afloat, and you're like, oh, it's only 50% left. Okay, fair shape. Probably in the next 3 years, you're going to have to do something about it. Poor, obviously, significant amounts of deterioration, but we're not seeing it at risk of failure. So we're not seeing like stress cracking or, timber starting to delaminate as it bends too much. And then very poor would be something's failed or in really bad condition and needs to be addressed urgently. And then on the other side of the matrix, we have a consequence scale. So this is a structural consequence. So this is about life safety. As an engineer, that's a really important part of our job. And so I kind of developed this consequence rating scale. Negligible consequence would be that failure of the element has no effect on people using the structure. A minor consequence would be that failure of this element doesn't really affect structural capacity and has a minor effect on usage. So this would be like your signage gets dented or your guard is like out of place or something like that. Moderate consequence, local failures only. So this would be like loose deck boards where, the risk to users isn't a collapse. It's like it's just a moderate risk. Significant would be that if the element were to fail, it might not create global failure of the system, but you will have a significant failure and other elements might need to take on more of the load to accommodate that failure, which could present as some overstressing in the other elements. And then collapse would be like a bridge with only 2 girders. If one of those girders fails, the whole bridge is coming down. So elements that are really important for the structure to be standing. And then we made this risk matrix. So you can see the consequence rating on the vertical, the assessment rating on the horizontal, and then we were able to rate the structural damages based off of risk.
Just hit
Yeah.
pause there. Could I get a motion to continue the presentation? Thank you, Director Roth, Director Steer.
Wow, sorry.
All those in favor? All opposed? Okay, motion carried. Please continue.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. All right, so the goal of this was to be able to evaluate the risk to you guys and then plan accordingly. So plan your maintenance, plan your budgeting, and yeah, be able to make a more strategic management decision with how you want to kind of manage risk, because you guys own a lot of, or are stewards of a lot of infrastructure. So we're coming to the end of the presentation. I just want to talk about risk mitigation. So there's lots of ways to mitigate risk with trail bridges. There are some municipalities that put signage at the front of the trail saying, like, even giving it a rating like green circle to black diamond, right? And saying, like, this is a really hard trail. If you have accessibility challenges or you're not very sure-footed, like, you shouldn't probably do this trail, or here's some equipment that would be helpful on this trail. So that can help to mitigate your risk. Another thing you can do is retain like a qualified person, like a structural engineer, to come and sort of assume the risk for you, right? So if you're, say, wanting to replace some of these structures and you don't want to go like with the highway bridge code fancy structure, an engineer can write a letter of assurance saying the structure's safe and design it outside of those standards. And that could be one way to address some of this stuff without, like, you know, it really ballooning and becoming bigger than what it is, what the infrastructure actually is. So on the Alberni Inlet Trail, these were some of the bridges that had a higher risk rating. So Bridge 4 is just missing its abutments. It's just like sort of two steel channels with grading and spanning over a creek, but not really secured to anything. So it got a pretty high risk rating. It also has no guarding, but that's a less worrying item. Bridge 7 is not really a bridge, I think you could argue. I didn't spend much time there, but it was over a crossing, so I noted it. The logs are not attached to each other. They could separate if someone were using it. So yeah, a higher risk. Bridge 8, no plan bracing. I mean, this is just a seismic thing. So really, it's that risk rating. I don't know. You could argue that one, I think, because these bridges in a seismic event, the odds of having somebody on there is quite low. And then Bridge 15. So in the photo, you can see decayed elements. The abutments are beginning to decay. There's a lot of settlement and no guarding. The Evergreen Trail got a high risk rating, but like, this is a good example of the risk not really being correlated to the cost, right? So these aluminum truss bridges, all the elements are welded together. So these verticals that I'm showing, this would be like a vertical element in the truss. The way the welds are incomplete. So the load path is not working the way a truss is intended to work if those connections aren't good. So it gets a higher risk rating because we're not really sure how it's going to behave without those welds present. But the repair is fairly straightforward. Log Train Trail, okay. Yeah, so I just highlighted a couple of the bridges. Bridge 3, which some other stuff has happened since this, but there was a failed element there. This is a good example, I think, of like heavy point loads coming down on the structure. This element has kind of crushed over the concrete abutment. So that's like a shear failure. The wood was really decayed as well on the inside. So moisture and bugs and stuff in the fungal decay in there. Bridge 5, just unknown natural log stringers, which I had mentioned before. We just can't really quantify what could go on that structure without more investigation. Bridge 6 and Bridge 8, again, same sort of thing, car frames. Hard to quantify their structural capacity without more investigation. And then Bridge 7, this is another failed stringer on the bridge. It's a steel section. And again, over the abutment. So likely a shear failure there. And then Maplehurst Trail. So these bridges are just really wet and decayed, really soft, and they move a bit. They're just not in great shape, but they're also like a foot off the ground, and maybe not a urgent item. And then Grappler Street Wharf. So we're talking about the fire department floats on this one. So these floats are kind of nearing the end of their service life. They're sort of getting to a point where fixing them would probably cost more than getting a float prefabricated and brought in. A lot of the substructure is gone, and the flotation is it's exposed styrofoam flotation, which it isn't best management practices at this time for like marine infrastructure. And there are places where the flotation's missing, so the floats list significantly when you're on them. And there's deck boards that are missing, so there's lots of tripping hazards and things like that. That's it. Thanks for giving me extra time.
No worries at all. Thank you for the
Okay.
presentation. Does anyone have any comments or questions? Director Sparrow, please go ahead.
Well, thank you for that. Yeah, I've been through most of those trails. I've been to Grappler one yet. And Maplehurst Park is in my area, but yeah, you're right. The bridges are, if you said soft, you'd be being very generously over. I know they move when I stand on them, so they need to be replaced. They're not in great shape. Welcome to my daily life. Computer crashed again.
Oh no.
Yeah. So yeah, we should look at doing something. So like in Maplehurst, there is money available there, sitting there. So, but there's $33,000 for 4 bridges. I'm wondering what you plan on doing. Brad, plan on making ones with like it says stringers and abutments. Do you plan on putting handrails up too, or just?
Those bridges, like a handrail system's really only required per the British Columbia Building Code if you're over 2 feet off the ground. So those bridges aren't 2 feet off the ground, and they're also a trail bridge. So there are ways you could put that on a sign and say, no handrail systems, slippery surfaces, like use at your own risk. That's also up for grabs too, right? So there's ways to kind of like mitigate how much you want to do on the bridges for their application, if that makes sense. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, they do need to get replaced.
Yeah, they're deteriorating quite quickly, and they do move quite a bit. Like the ground's pretty squishy, and yeah.
It should be my size on them, see if they move it. They definitely need.
I jumped up and down on a few. I like to really give them a good test.
Okay. So we can look at doing that. We have the money available on that. But the other ones there, yes, the other ones with the steel rails are actually old railroad ties to put underneath and build the bridge on top of the railroad ties. So the structural metal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't really identify what those were. I thought they were like a channel. I kind of felt them, but pretty close to the ground. Get underneath there.
I think that would train a lot.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense now. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what the picture is out there. So
okay.
Especially their sound, but everything above it. I like that one too. You're right. Those ones that are you're condemning up there. I will agree with you. They should be condemned. But hopefully we can get moving on this and hopefully the board will find wisdom and getting this fixed. Thank you for your report.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you for that. Next up, Director Boyko, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I got 3 questions here. What kind of point loading did you use for the bridges for, say, a human, a bicycle, a quad, and a horse? What would be the highest point loading, like PSI per square foot or square inch?
PSI, can I do it in metric?
You can pick whatever you want.
Okay. So the bridge code would specify like a 4 kPa area load that would account for pedestrian use. The equestrian load is 4.45 kilonewtons over a 100 by 100 patch, I believe. And then for the recreational vehicles, we're using an AASHTO vehicle. It's a H-93. And off the top of my head, in my presentation, I do have the numbers for that one as well.
As someone that regularly uses a quad vehicle, I've never heard of that kind of thing. Is there possible to like use like a Polaris or a normal side-by-side that's used here?
Yeah, so that's a good question. The short answer is not unless you can guarantee that Polaris is the only ATV that's getting, or the only thing
Well-
getting used on the structure, right? So, a design vehicle is kind of like taking a whole bunch of different vehicles and making the worst case
Okay,
and
well,
then
that's
using that
valid.
to
Yeah,
design.
yeah. I
Yeah.
agree with that.
Oh, okay, great.
Second question is, now we've had volunteers looking after this for decades, right? With no engineering drawings, and they've done the best they can with what they have. And now we're bringing in a professional engineer to look at things and say, this is good, this is not proper. We don't know what kind of wood this is, that kind of thing. Those are the kind of things that are being proposed, right? Is there some standard guidelines that could be proposed on, say, this is what a bridge that will handle a ash tow vehicle, a big horse, a bicycle, 5 people at a time, that we can provide to volunteers so that they can make these things in the future that will be acceptable instead of having to pay for contractors, which is what's being proposed. Volunteers have been doing this. They want to keep doing it. They've been doing it in the last year. If we give them guidance, we can carry on with that and not ostracize the people that have been doing this work.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. I think that's reasonable with like some oversight, obviously, to make sure things are happening. The tricky thing with like a standardized, say, bridge section is like every bridge is different and that the span is different, right? So that really changes the sizing of a lot. Like I could probably do the superstructure, decking and like the joists, say, if we're talking about like a timber structure. But anything spanning longitudinally along the span, it would have to be site specific. Yeah.
No, that's very good. I mean, there's a discrete number of bridges that exist and / culverts that are, 1 foot off the ground. Final question. You mentioned that putting out a use at your own risk sign might be a good way to move forward and limit liability for future things. That's kind of what's been happening for decades now and moving forward. I'd say that would be put that all on bottom of all signs that you assume liability for using the trail. So I think that's a great welcome addition. So thank you very much.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, the Squamish, the district of Squamish, they have some really good guidelines out there. That's kind of where I got some of these ideas when we were talking about risk mitigation and stuff. Because they have tons of trail systems, so that was an interesting read for sure.
Districts of Squamish. Thank you very much.
Any further comments? Director Cote, please go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you through the chair. Thanks for the report. Looking at the Dixon Park review, I don't really see any thing for rehabilitation, I guess, of what's the infrastructure that's there. It's just replacement.
Right.
Which a lot of people, Doc, you can resurface it, like replank it.
Yeah, for sure.
The pilings that are there are steel.
Yep.
And they're put in there because in the past, the pilings were on the outside. Now they're on the inside of the dock so that it can't be stolen because it was stolen right after it had been replaced.
Oh.
So, looking for maybe some interpretation as to how to continue the life of what's there rather than replacement.
Okay, sure. Off the top of my head, I can't, but I can come back to that question and talk to Michael and get some of those answers for you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, I'd like to thank you for your presentation and yeah, thank you for helping us with understanding I think just the risk management of these bridges primarily.
Great, thanks.
Thanks. Okay, so that brings us into the next item. So that's correspondence for action, of which there is none. I will say that that brings us into correspondence for information, and there's several items. I'm wondering if anybody wants to pull anything out. Or we can have a motion just to receive the information. Director Roth, please go ahead.
I'll move
that the Board of Directors receive items A and B for information.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Director Steer. Any further comments? Director Sparrow, please go ahead.
Thank you. Did I read that the AVICC is only going to limit to 3 resolutions per area? I would look it up, but you know, things crashed again, so I can't look at what page it's on for clarity.
Director Cote?
Thank you. Yes, that was proposed by the executive. There's an issue with too many resolutions going forward to UBCM, particularly. The AVICC also, we have so many resolutions that come forward. I actually voted against this. I think that it's too limiting. I think maybe 5 would be more reasonable when you have municipalities, First Nations, and regional areas that are all competing for resolutions to come through the regional district. I think that it's unreasonable to be 3. So if you're interested, maybe we could write a letter. I do think that it should be limited somewhat, and maybe we could get together with other regional districts to jointly put in resolutions going forward. There, a lot of the time you'll have many resolutions coming forward from different local governments with all the same basic request. So yes, you're right. 3.
Go ahead.
Follow up to is the fact that if it's only a regional thing, they won't listen to the UBCM. So if we have an issue here that's not considered province-wide, it won't be brought forward. Is that correct?
That's my understanding, yes. Yeah. Dr. Cote, please go ahead.
Thank you. It is an issue going forward to only have 3 resolutions. I have a really bad feeling about limiting our members as a whole of AVICC on what you can do. Forget for some support from AVICC. I have a feeling we could lose members because of it when they don't feel valued enough to be able to put a resolution forward and be received. Thanks.
Yeah, I think just because as a First Nation, we have the ability to put forward up to 3 motions ourselves. The same thing holds true for cities, towns, and districts. They can put forward motions. I would rather that we see the number of motions be pegged to the number of electoral areas in a regional district so that each at least gets 1. If there's going to be an arbitrary cap on top of it, then maybe you remove the cap for any joint resolutions being put forward by regional districts or various members. And then that kind of allows for, if you're going to do some work across boundaries, then that'd be okay. But yeah, three's tough. Yeah. Go ahead.
Thank you. It's kind of awkward for me being on the AVICC executive to be requesting a letter, but I think that this board should send a letter to UBCM or to AVICC saying that it's too limiting. And you could say however you like to divide it up, but I just feel like it's too limiting. Thank you.
Thanks for staying as long as you did, Alex. Okay, so maybe what we do after this motion, because it's already on the floor, we have a motion afterwards to send a letter to the AVICC that someone other than Penny will move. And then are we okay with the idea that maybe we peg it to the number of electoral areas or have no limit if it's a joint resolution with other districts or something? Yeah, okay. So we'll get there. Any further comments? Okay, so on the original motion, just to receive the information, all those in favor? All opposed? Okay, motion carried. Okay, would anyone like to move, Director Roth? Okay, so we'll move that, we'll send a letter to the AVICC sending the message that the limit is arbitrary and too low, and that we suggest that we peg it to the number of regional districts and place no limit on joint resolutions across boundaries. I don't. Oh. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, if the RD and even the city of Port Alberni want to put something together, I mean, that's significant in and of itself, let alone Euclid and Tofino or that sort of thing. So, yeah, I know that the limit is to make sure that we can get through the resolutions, but there are other ways to do it. Okay.
I'm not 100% clear on the motion. First part is that the number of resolutions is too low and requested the number of resolutions be tied to the number of electoral areas. And
Yeah, and there be no limit on resolutions that are the product of a joint between like members of the ABICC. So like if leaders are actually working across boundaries or whatever, that's significant. It should bear some significance there. And there'd be incentive for chairs and mayors and that sort of thing to talk to each other, and maybe that's part of the incentive. Go ahead, Director Cote.
Thank you. I believe there's only 2 First Nations that are actually members, maybe only 1 of ABICC. You're a member because of being in the regional district, but I know that Kirsten, they became a ABICC member, ABIC or ABCM? ABCM member last year. So there's, you know, I'd be questioning whether or not you're actually an independent member of First Nations. Thanks.
Yeah, we may just need to apply and join and pay to do it, but that's our problem, not our problem. Yeah.
But you'll only get to put any resolutions through the regional district, which limits us to 3. And then we're all competing for those 3 with the First Nations and the electoral areas. Thanks.
Okay. We may be able to join sooner than that. I don't know how it works because the constitution of the ABACC was changed in 2013, I think. So it does automatically allow for it. I think it's just an administrative impact at that point. Yeah. Okay.
I just note that Director Johnson stated that Tokwat has joined individually both UBCM and ABICC.
Cool. Thank you, Director Johnson. Okay, so with that in mind, we'll send that letter. If anybody's interested in what it looks like, just ask staff to send it to them once it's been drafted. I think we'll be okay then.
So we had that moved, but we haven't had that seconded yet.
Would anyone like to second it? Thank you, Director Sparrow. Any further comments? Okay, seeing none, I'll declare the motion carried. No, I can't do that. That's who it. Sorry. All those in favor? All opposed? Okay, motion carried. Thank you. Dr. Cote, last word.
Thank you. Just further on the correspondence from ABICC, there is requests coming out now for anyone who's interested in being nominated for the executive, and also for sessions, proposals for sessions, deadline being December the 4th, which is coming up quite quickly. And also student delegates. Alex was we couldn't have asked for anybody better to be attending UBCM, and he is interested in ABICC. And he also was interested in his friend, Andy, also attending.
Yes.
So
yes,
we may want to look at that because we are running out of time. I would like to propose a session from the regional district going forward to ABICC. I'd like to see if Colson's would be interested in providing us with a session on their aviation program that they have that starts in grade 6, I think it is, where they go into the school and start teaching aviation and starting at a very young age, and then their last year of high school, I believe they can complete it out at Colson's. I think that'd be an excellent program to be bringing forward to ABICC. I could contact Colson if the board is interested in actually moving this session forward. Thanks.
I think that would be great. Would anyone be willing to move? Thank you, Dr. Roth. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Dr. Haggard. Any comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? All opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Right, thank you, Dr. Cote. Okay, so I think that's it for our information. We've already passed it. We passed motions. That'll bring us into item 9, which is request for decisions and bylaws. First item is item 9A. I believe Heather will help us through it. Board committee and financial plan meeting schedule.
Yeah, so I've prepared a report with the proposed 2026 meeting schedule. I'll just highlight a few things in my report. So there's a couple changes to board meetings. They're normally held on Wednesdays, but in October, the first board meeting's been moved to the Thursday, the October 15th, to allow for advanced voting for the election to take place in the boardroom. And normally there's a second board meeting scheduled in October. However, the new board will not be sworn in until November 12th. So we have not scheduled a second board meeting. And then the board meeting that should have been held on Remembrance Day has been moved to Thursday, November 12th. The board historically hosts one board meeting per year offsite. I've highlighted all the past meeting locations in the report. And so if the board would like to choose an offsite location, I've requested a resolution be passed to identify that location, and that would be for the May 27th board meeting. We have outlined the schedule for financial planning process. So the draft financial plan will be presented to the Committee of the Whole on February 12th with presentations from each department. Staff are encouraging directors to attend on February 12th in person to help facilitate discussions and participation. There's several public inputs periods for the public. They can ask questions, they can email. Terry is setting up a Let's Connect webpage that will outline all of the meetings and reports and presentations. We have tentatively scheduled an open house and financial plan presentation at the Alberni Valley Rescue Squad Hall on February 26th. Terry normally does presentations to Banfield Community Affairs and the Sprout Lake Community Association. And she's open to holding other meetings should a director wish that. So if you would like that, please engage with Terry. The time requirements for planning all of these meetings is significant. We hold approximately 120 meetings per year. I've outlined the time required in the report. It takes approximately 10 hours of administration staff time to coordinate committee meetings and longer for board meetings. Earlier this year, the board supported moving forward with agenda management and electronic software and voting software in mid-2026, and I'm excited to move forward with that software. And this is going to create efficiencies and improve agenda management process, lessening administration time spent on building agenda packages and drafting minutes. Should the board wish to consider adding additional committees later on in the year, staff will recommend completing a review of existing committees to determine if the number and scope of all committees are appropriate. So I have a couple of resolutions for the board to consider.
Thank you for that. Any comments or questions on the schedule? We'll cover that one first. Seeing none, do we have anyone willing to move the motion? Oh, Dr. Steer, comment?
Just a quick comment. Once if the board, and I suspect we will, accept the schedule, does that the ability to then email us those so that we can get it into our calendar? When would that happen?
I'll commit to that in the next couple of weeks.
Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, would anyone be willing to move the meeting schedule? Director Roth, thank you. Seconded by Director Haggard. Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? All opposed? A motion carried. Thank you. It's a bit sobering, 100 and something meetings, eh? All right, for the next question in regards to the off-site board meeting, do we have any communities that are willing to volunteer to host on the 27th of May? So the weather will be fairly good. Dr. Steele?
Without talking to my staff. I'm gonna volunteer the district of Tofino. We have just with, I think there's some new facilities such as our wastewater treatment plant, state of the art on time, on budget, that I think would be great if we could include that type of, like we've had Fortune and Field. I think those were excellent opportunities to highlight some of those pieces of infrastructure in our communities. So without confirmation from my staff and council, I would like to extend that invitation.
Okay, it's been moved. Director Haggard, would you like to second? Or
I'll
a
second
comment?
that. I was
Okay.
actually going to suggest Stefano anyway, so thank you, Director Steer.
Okay, voluntold. What we can do is now that it's been moved and seconded, we can have a motion to defer this decision to after Tofino can get back, but it is a motion on the floor, so it will be on the agenda. Do we want to do that? We could. It's just a interesting use of Robert's rules, is all I'm saying. We don't have to. Okay, saying none, nobody cares. All those in favor? All opposed? Okay, motion carried. And here I was going to ask to see if you both wanted to host. I didn't want to do that to Director Mastrangelo.
Just a quick
Go ahead.
there, and, to Heather, would you be making that connection with the district? Thank you.
It is better to ask for forgiveness than permission, I suppose. Yes, yes. Okay. Your mayor is cruel but fair. Okay. From that, we'll go into item B. That is the 2026 AVICC resolutions. Go ahead, Daniel.
Well, unless somebody wants to jump in, I think this is just an important opportunity to bring forward the fact that we are going to be looking at collecting resolutions. Obviously, if the structure stays the way it is, we'll be competing for space on those resolutions. I would just flag that as you're thinking of different ideas for us to research or bring forward as potential resolutions, that the Transportation Committee is actively working on various elements for a permanent alternate route, and there's going to be a lot of discussion across the region around that in the next few months, and that might be a good subject for a resolution, but we'll see how those discussions go. I'll stop there.
Thank you. Director Roth?
This might be a good opportunity to address or seeking legislation to provide elected officials some level of protection when they're missing work to attend regular board meetings without penalty. So, I mean, I think that could apply to everyone throughout the province that's an elected official. And currently there isn't anything. So I would like to put forward something like that. Thank you.
That would be good, especially for all those businesses that follow BC Labor Code too. Yeah.
There's actually some unions that have it within their collective agreement, but for people that aren't unionized, and there isn't anything. So I would like to see that go forward. Thank you.
That's a really good idea. Yeah, okay. Would anyone like to second that as something to follow up on? Thank you, Director Steer. So we'll just add that to the list of things we'll work on for a resolution, and someone will contact you. It's a really good idea. Okay. Yeah. Okay, any further comments? So for this item, all in favor? All opposed? Okay, motion carried. Thank you. Okay, so we'll have more chances at that, but that's a great idea. So thank you for that, Dr. Rob. Okay. Do we want to move this motion just to get the ball rolling? Is that what you want to do? Given what we said at the discussion or at the minutes, go ahead.
I mean, if you're passing this resolution, it's just really a reminder that if you have any concepts that they would be brought forward at the latest January 16th to allow us sufficient time to do the research, wordsmithing, and working with the AVICC to submit. There's no harm done by also passing this resolution. We just already have one that's been submitted, so thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Would anyone like to move this then? Just to keep the, thank you, Dr. Roth. Any further comments? Any seconders? Sorry. Thank you, Dr. Steer. Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? All opposed? The motion carried. Okay, so that gives us a few kicks at the can for checking in on resolutions. Okay, so that brings us to the next item, which is the 2026 appointment to the Vancouver Island Regional Library. I believe appointments are every year for these guys as well. Heather, please go ahead.
Yep, just a simple appointment for a director to sit on the Vancouver Island Regional Library as a trustee and setting an alternate as well. Vancouver Island Regional Library encourages the reappointment of sitting members if they have not served more than 8 years. And it cannot be from a member municipality as they appoint their own trustee.
Thank you for that. Discussion? So Director Boyko is our primary. Who was our alternate before? Yeah, it was Director Cote.
Cote, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, what is everyone's proclivity? Director Sparrow?
That's not working out too. I would like to put Director Cote up as the director and Director Boyko as the alternate director. Okay.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Director Haggard and Dr. McEwen, thank you. Any further comments? Any further comments? Okay. Dr. Cote, you're willing to be appointed?
I would actually. I was hoping to have been appointed last time, but yes, I would, because I don't have that many appointments through this board when you look at reporting out. ABICC is really not one of the appointed committees as a representative. It's something else which should be taken out of that. So okay, I would let my name stand.
Okay, thank you. Director Boyko, comments?
Yep, that sounds good. Let's proceed.
Okay, any further comments? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor? All opposed? Okay, motion carried. Thank you. Okay, that brings us to North Island 911 revised and restated shareholders agreement and amendments to the articles of incorporation. Charlie, please go ahead.
Yeah, this is a amendment to the shareholders agreement for the North Island 911 Corporation to allow the Tla'amin Nation to become shareholders. No changes to the ACRD's shares held or any cost to the ACRD. So any questions, or Bob Beckett, Director Beckett, might want to add any more to this?
Director Beckett, do you have any supplementals, or would you like to move the motion?
I thank you, Charlie, for speaking to this. I did attend the meeting or the meetings associated with this resolution, and I am fully supportive. So that I will make the motion that the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors approves the amended and restated shareholders agreement and shareholders resolution to alter the articles as provided to the correspondence, in the correspondence dated August 6, 2025 from the North Island 911 Corporation.
Director Steer, seconded. Thank you. Any further comments or questions? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor? All opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Alrighty, that brings us to one of the marquee headings here. Michael McGregor, please take us through the linear asset management. And go slow, because I'm going to get coffee.
Hi, everyone. Through the chair, who's getting coffee. I want to start off by saying thank you to Shannon for her delegation. So this just builds on that talking point there. So the information that Shannon collected and amassed for us in these reports is going to be, implemented into our asset registry. This project was kind of initiated through the 2021 Parks Asset Management Plan that identified the information that on these types of assets as missing. So that 2021 project was mostly a desktop exercise. So getting out into the field and actually recording, the conditions of these assets is going to do a lot of good things for feeding into that asset registry, and in turn feeding into the asset management program. And with a good, accurate information, it's only as good as, this program is only as good as the information that it's built upon. So it's going to help the ACRD prioritize investments of resources. It's going to help staff and the board better plan and forecast its funding needs. It's going to meet or help us meet established levels of service, and also overall, reduce risk. So lastly, it improves our case for future grants in improving these upgrades. So the next steps here are, for the asset management program, it feeds into the asset registry, feeds into the asset plan that influences our financial plan, and is reported out provincially and where required. So next steps for an operations side of things is that, we share and discuss this with our, existing contracted maintenance, as well as volunteer groups that perform work on these assets, as well as we'll discuss it at commission levels and working groups to identify, incorporating routine maintenance suggestions like removal of organic growth where possible. And then the larger projects that may be like a capital project, they run through our standard capital project proposal procedure. So you'll likely see some picks on the upcoming budget deliberations. And those picks will define, the expected cost and scope and the funding plan to achieve them. So happy to answer some questions on that one.
Thank you for that. Any comments or questions? Dr. Sparrow, please go ahead.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I noticed on the what's the log train trail here that you have got signage on the bridges saying, the ACRD is saying, hey, use your own risk because they're falling apart. I've been down there quite a few times, but so we do need to work on those ones to get them up to some sort of standard which we can actually utilize. I mean, some areas are going to be walking sections, some areas are going to be larger than that, but yeah, we have to get moving on that. And we do have Maplehurst Park, like I said, and it needs work, and we have money for that. So I'm looking forward to what the next steps are, and soon with some waypoint signing out there and all that. So I'm looking forward to your report and see what we can do. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I had a question before we go to Dr. Haggard. In regards to, we've already had some feedback and conversation during the presentation, and I'm wondering what the next steps might be for us to just, if we receive the report, just make sure that our feedback is received and heard by staff. Is that something that we should put into the motion as an extra item, or have a motion afterwards? Like things like the sign, but I think the signs were mentioned in the report. But if there's anything else that was mentioned by other folks that may not be incorporated, then maybe we have a motion after this to just make sure that that's considered once we receive the report in future work. Sorry, go ahead. No, wait, Dr. Haggard is next. Sorry.
Thank you, Chair Jack. I'm just wondering if we put up those use at your own risk signs, is that really lessen our liability if somebody goes across a bridge and then the bridge breaks and someone gets hurt? I just can't see that would lessen our liability just by putting up a sign. Can you comment on that, or is that something we check into?
Yeah, Daniel?
The Municipal Insurance Association is the agency that we work with. And at the end of the day, any wordsmithing along those lines, they are our best advisor along those lines. And so my understanding is that, yes, it does have an impact because you're at least providing some indication to the potential user of what they're embarking on. I think Shannon brought up a good example of the District of Squamish. There's other good examples out there, such as the Sunshine Coast and Powell River, that have done a whole trail grading or rating system, and have good experience. So, for example, the Cathette Pause is a group of volunteers that actually manages and helps manage and maintain over 180 kilometers of trails along the Sunshine Coast, and that includes huts and composting outhouses and trails and bridges. And they've worked with BC Parks and the community forest. And so there are really good examples out there where we can put signage that's in line with that, and that we can collaborate with volunteers where they do work, and that work can still be in collaboration with an agency such as us that can extend insurance so long as we're meeting those parameters of our insurer. And in our case, that's the Municipal Insurance Association of BC, MIABC. And so any final wording we would take out of this discussion, Michael would likely advance that and have a discussion with MIABC. Michael, do you have something to add to that?
Yeah, the only thing I have to add is, as far as, addressing liability on these parks and trails, the best way to do it, in my experience, is just to say what you're going to do and follow through with that. So, ensuring clear communication to the public and to the insurance agency about, what we intend to maintain it, what level of service, and then, following through on that policy.
Okay, follow up, Director Haggard, anything?
Yes, I was just going to say, to me, it's very similar to like when you sign a liability waiver, say you go bungee jumping and it breaks and you fall and you hurt yourself, you can still sue that company, and chances are they would probably have to pay. So to me, it's very similar. So it's just concerning to me to put up a sign, use at your own risk. I don't think it waives our risk of liability at all, but that's only my opinion. I don't know for sure.
Yeah, it depends on a lot of the specifics of any given case at that point, because anyone can sue anyone, but whether or not it actually is successful or whether or not you can scare us into settling is a whole nother thing entirely, right? So that's always a consideration too. Thank you for being patient, Director Cote, and then Director Roth.
Thank you. My experience with MIA and watching the requests of payment to MIA, people could say that they didn't see the sign. They can enter the trail at any point that doesn't have a sign on it. That makes us liable for what's happening. The thing is that MIA, if you take the measures to try to say that, use at your own risk, and we've done everything we can, they may still pay out, but it's not going to reflect badly on us, but we still may be liable. Thanks.
Thank you for that. Director Roth and then Director Blinko.
Yeah, I'm curious to know the cost of the infrastructure upgrades for the Log Train Trail. Do you have an overall cost?
I don't have them in front of me. I believe there's two costs in the asset report. One is a total of costs for the upgrades that are recommended, and then there's a total replacement cost as well. So,
yeah,
I don't have the number in front of me, but we can review the report.
Okay, that'd be really good. Thanks.
Daniel, please go ahead.
I can help out with that. So the three elements that were identified in the trail as the immediate safety concerns, I think, was Bridge 3, Bridge 5, and Bridge 7. One of those is recommended to be culvert, not a bridge. And so really there's two bridges that we're looking at. And I believe we're looking at roughly 8, 6, 14, 17, $18,000. And so doing the immediate works in that category is actually we're able to do this year within this year's budget. And then we're meeting those immediate safety concerns that were identified. The larger question becomes, how do we structure this moving forward? It's one thing to throw immediate concerns and address it. And it's good that it can be within the budget, but for each one of these parks and for all the linear assets, this information allows us to make better plans and to talk about how it is that we want to implement those plans. And I should imagine, from a staff perspective, we're always looking at it as we want the lowest possible cost with the greatest risk mitigation. And so we would be coming back with plans that look at the next 3, 5 or more years and be talking about which ones we should be tackling with grants, which areas have volunteers that are active that we could actually coordinate with, and then how would we structure something like that. So it just allows us It allows us to do the work we have to do and do the planning we need to do. So I think it's really good information.
Okay, thank you. Director Boyko, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. So my question relates to specifically Log Train Trail, where we had good public engagement and we selected, the public wanted level 4 level of service, but as a board, we said, we want to have level 3 level of service for engineered assets. So my question is, have we made the jump from an engineered asset to say every bridge and culvert is an engineered asset, or are we going to follow a proper definition that says a engineered asset is something that has been designed and stamped by a professional engineer and it already exists? Secondly, when we take over this and we're saying that even though this has been done with volunteers for the past decades, we are now going to say, nope, you can't do that anymore. ACRD is going to take that over. How is that going to affect the volunteers? We need to set this up right now before we say, yep, we're going to plow ahead and do this, because it's a fundamental change in what people are doing out there. And for example, the recent bridge repair that was done by volunteers about 6 months ago and documented, and they said, yep, report says, no, you didn't do good enough and we got to rip it all apart, even though it's perfectly functioning fine. So a couple of good questions there, but we need to make sure we're doing what the public wants, not what an engineering consulting company and staff is suggesting. So 2 big questions there. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dr. Boyko. That makes me think that we should look further into what the Cathet Regional District is doing, because they involve volunteers as well, and I think some of them go back that far too. Dr. Roth, go ahead.
Just to add that within a year, there's going to be a ballot, so we could bring a question to the people Queen City. Just put that thought out there. Thank you.
Thanks for that. Okay, Dr. Beckett.
Chair, before we go on, can I get the staff to answer my 2 questions, please?
Sorry about that. Please go
ahead. Yeah, for the engineered assets question, I'd have to refer to our asset program, but my understanding is that essentially assets are separated between engineered assets and natural assets, and so engineered assets aren't particularly stamped by an engineer. They're just built assets. So it could be like even a trail or a culvert, or those are considered an engineer asset, even though an engineer may not have designed it. But I could get clarification from our asset team if they're on. The second question there, as far as managing volunteers, yeah, we definitely want to encourage and promote volunteerism within the community, and working on parks and trails. The intention is definitely not to take away and do that instead of the volunteers, but work with them. In the report there, it did identify utilizing volunteer work and resources wherever we possibly can, because that's what we want to do, and that's what we talk about at the Regional Parks Working Group a lot. We still have lots of great volunteers out doing work and reducing costs and improving our trails. So anything that the ACRD can do as an organization to supplement that and help it achieve standards that that we want to do to make sure our users are safe, that's kind of the priority here.
Perfect. Can I just get a quick follow-up, Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
So before we say we're going to go spend money on rebuilding bridges, I would like to look at what other areas are doing for volunteer engagement, such as District of Cathet, like you talked about. And I was looking at the regional or the District of Squamish and what they're doing for their trail management and volunteer program. And I think there's a lot we can learn there to engage the public and figure out how we can do this, because if we take to the people who want to spend $750,000 to rebuild bridges on the Log Train Trail, people will revolt. And that's not what people want, and that's not the direction that we got. So starting this incrementally is the start of something, but we need to start off on the right foot that says we are going to engage the volunteers that want to do this work and have been doing it for decades in a proper, ethical, respectful manner, to not say, no, we're taking over the whole thing as ACRD and that's how it will go. So I'd like to make a motion that we ask staff, and internally, I think the directors that work in each area can go and look for examples of volunteer engagement and come back before we get to the budget season next year and say, this is what we will do to engage the different volunteer groups and go. So I've been reading up on the history of Long Train Trail, and it started with volunteers from the equestrian side and everybody else. And that's how it's been done. And we need to keep that going forward. Thank you.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Seconded by Director Roth. Just a follow-up question from Daniel.
So I think that's a wise recommendation, and I think it aligns with where we're intending to go, and as staff is trying to build that in a good way. I know Al from Cathet, and I know the volunteers from the Cathet Pause. I know Linda, the CAO of District of Squamish, and so the question really becomes how quickly can we pull them together to get that information in a meaningful way back to the board. So we will do our best to have it by December. Otherwise, it would be early January is when we'd have that information.
Yeah, I believe we only have the one meeting in December, so we'll try for the first meeting of December if you want to put a timeline on it. But there may be a chance that we don't get it all put together, especially.
Why don't we? So, Chair, I'll just say let's do it by the first time in January to make sure we have proper time to staff to do a good job. I urge directors to talk to their compatriots and the volunteer groups in the Valley for their own areas. I know that probably the ATV hill climbers are not going to go to Sprout Lake and work on their trails, but Sprout Lake could probably have their own groups that would be doing things out there and that kind of thing. So I urge directors to do their own research in the background and then be well informed and educated when we come back and decide on this.
Okay, I'll try to facilitate a conversation with a couple of Cathet regional directors just because I know them and they might be quite helpful. So just on the motion first, any comments? Director Cote?
Thank you. So on the motion, Sprout Lake has a Parks Commission. We have a hired person company that does the trails, cleans them up and maintains them. So I don't know how we could get volunteers involved with when we already have paid service provider. Thanks.
Thank you. Does anyone have any other comments on the motion? Dr. Beckett, do you have a comment on the motion or do you want to talk to the general?
I have nothing on the motion. I do want to speak to Director Boyko's comments and approach to addressing some of these challenges.
Okay, so maybe that is kind of on the motion then, because it's some of that. Do you have any comments or questions then, Dr. Beckett?
Well, I think as a board, regardless of our passion for particular projects, our ultimate responsibility is to ensure that we are not carrying any undue liability. And I'm not going to speak to the log train trail. I'm going to speak to the Banfield Community Parks Grapper Wharf, because when I read the report, was not surprised. I was a bit concerned about the dollar costs of doing the necessary repairs. So on one hand, I would concur with Director Boyko that we've been using local folks to do the repairs, but what we've been missing is the appropriate guidance from knowledgeable folks. They don't have to be engineers necessarily, but we've been missing that overall guidance from the staff regarding what we need to do to maintain the facility so that it's in good working order, reducing the liabilities to our local Parks Commission, as well as the ACRD board. So I guess I just want to say that well, Banfield is going to need to address potential costs, and hopefully we can find grants or we can find local tradespeople that are prepared to help us with significant cost savings. I think we have to do our due diligence as a board to make sure that these assets are being properly maintained. So I'll stop there. I think you've got my point that I appreciate the work that staff is doing. I think we can find a way to accommodate the various mosaics of situations that we exist in. But again, I don't see this as a negative. I see this as a maturing process. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Beckett. Director Haggard?
Thank you, Chair Jack. I guess my concern in this conversation is our increased liability. And as I said earlier, just putting up a sign, I don't think decreases our liability. I think that increases it. And we're talking about not doing bridges correctly and using volunteers that may or may not have a well intention, may not have the best ability in order to build a bridge. So we need to look at our liability because it's going to come back and bite us at some point. So I'm really concerned about that issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Haggard. Director Boyko, please go ahead.
Yep, thank you. I think the main concern here is liability, liability, liability. And I'm hearing that over and over again. So currently, what's been going on for decades is volunteers have been looking over this trail by themselves. And now we're looking at bringing in a government body, the ACRD, to look after it and say, no, we're going to solve that liability right now. So none of us are lawyers in this room. There are engineers in this room, but no lawyers. So I would say that we table this until we get an opinion and say, if used at your own risk is good enough to say move on, and we can use, how do you want to say? Volunteers that are not necessarily going out with a chainsaw in the middle and fixing stuff, but with some direction and maybe some scope that's provided by, hey, you need to use this kind of treated timber, and maybe we'll provide that, and maybe use this kind of gravel on top and carry on like that. But we're going from no liability, according that there's like anybody can do anything they want, break their foot out there and sue us, to say everything's going to be perfectly fine when we move forward here. So I just want to be very clear that there are no lawyers here, and maybe we should get a legal opinion before we decide that, yes, this is good or bad. Thank you.
Okay, it seems like the question becomes, how do we address the legal question? There may be ways that we can do that through, I think you mentioned MIA and other desktop things we can do. Is that enough of a threshold once we present that information as a part of this? My understanding of this is that we're going to receive it as a report. It's not necessarily a call to action quite yet. We still have to decide to do things based on that information. So I don't think we should hold off on your motion, because that's what's on the floor right now. And then the next motion, which hasn't been moved yet, is to receive the report. We can have as an additional, either additional motion or in addition to this next motion, would be to ask for a review of the risk or the liability concerns, not from an engineering perspective, which is more risk management and risk calculations, but rather the legal applications of those things and whether or not we need to. Because I think that's the question that Director Boyko is asking. Dr.
So
Boyko,
I got a quick amendment to the
go ahead.
motion then, and we can say that in addition to bringing back how volunteers are used effectively in other areas, such as the two identified, we'll ask staff to bring back a legal opinion at that point, and then we'll have more knowledge than what people think signs mean and things like this.
Let's make that a separate motion, and then we can it's just cleaner that way, if that's okay.
Perfect.
Okay.
We'll leave the motion as is. Thank you.
Okay. Daniel, go ahead.
I was just going to emphasize where I believe you were going, Chair Jack, and that's just, we're talking about different things, right? So one is the information. The information done in the report that we're talking about receiving isn't going to change as a result of liability. It was an assessment on the condition. The question becomes, how do we take that information to manage different parts? And the how is the part that deserves a legal review. And that's the thing that we would do with MIA. And that connects, it does connect to the resolution that Director Boyko has advanced in terms of what are other people doing. But even then, that discussion with MIA is how do we do that? And what's our liability in taking that approach? And once we have examples from other areas, we can certainly have that discussion with MIA or with legal to be able to produce that. So I think it's wise having two resolutions on that subject, but I also think that we should receive this report, because the report just says this is the condition. And based on the matrix that's there, it helps us be consistent on evaluating that. What we have not yet done is the policy or the approach.
Okay, so I think we've said the same thing a couple times now. So this is the original motion that Director Boyko has put forward in regards to getting information back by, at the latest, the first meeting in January. So are there any further questions or comments on that? Okay, seeing that.
Can Heather read the motion, please?
Yep.
That the ACRD Board of Directors directs staff to investigate how other local governments manage volunteers to work on local government assets such as trails and parks, and report back to the board in early January.
Okay, so that's the first motion. Okay, moved and seconded. All those in favor? All opposed? Okay, motion carried. Thank you. Now, the second motion could be the one in regards to the liability check. Director Boyko, I would suggest that the motion include maybe a check-in in December to see if we actually need a legal opinion, like to get a lawyer involved, or if working with MIA might be enough. So maybe we get an earlier report on the liability sooner than January. And then if we do need a company to step in, then that would be good, like Reese or whoever.
I think that's fine, and I will say, I'll make the motion that ACRD Board of Directors direct staff to investigate the liability concerns regarding ACE or Log Train Trail and other trails, every other trail for that matter, using volunteers to do the work that are directed by staff and have some kind of method of doing things properly. First with MIA to have a timeline to reply back in December, before the board meeting in December, so basically a month from now, and then have the option to get a legal opinion from a municipal legal lawyer and report back in January.
Okay, I think that works. December, yeah, and seconded by Director Roth. So can we make the reference to be just all of the linear assets referred to in the report, just to make it clean? Yeah, okay. Okay, with that in mind, any comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All opposed? Okay, motion carried. Director Cote.
Thank you. Going back to the question that you posed earlier about other issues that weren't covered in the report that I brought up regarding the cost of restructure, not new construction, how to deal with steel pilings that are deteriorating, redecking, that type of thing. So that's not covered in this. All it's covering is new construction, which I think we need to include that.
So I think, Director Cote, it does include information about what the renovation would be. That is in there. There was two tranches of totals. One was the full replacement, and then one was the fix it up to at some level of code. I can't remember what the reference was. Is that correct, Michael?
Yeah, that'd be correct. So each structure would be broken up into different components, such as the piling, the decking, the float system, the gangway. So looking at how we best maintain and refurbish those pieces, or would be separate than a full replacement. And we'll definitely prefer to address components as opposed to full replacement most of the time.
Okay, can you explain then what mobilization and demolition? Explain. Yeah.
So, yeah, do you want to, I think that's a term question, like just define the term.
Yeah, that's just the cost of utilizing a pile driver, gaining access to the site, and then removing and disposing of the old materials.
Okay. For the Faber Park, there was mention of access by water. There is no access by water. So we just want to make sure that that's within the report because it's not committed. So there is no boat tie-ups or anything like that, or boat moorage at all there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Director Cote. Would anyone like to move the original motion of just receiving the report? Thank you, Director Roth, seconded by Director Steer. Okay, any further comments? Is seeing none, all those in favor? All opposed? Okay, motion carried. Thank you. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you. So on to the next report, which is Log Train Trail allowable uses. This is from the October 22nd COW meeting, and the resolution stems from that meeting. So next steps, if this is passed, would be identify a location of the split boundary, develop a draft enforcement plan and regulatory bylaw, bring all that information for discussion at the Regional Parks Working Group, and share it with the Ministry of Transportation and Transit, make these edits, and then hopefully back to the board subsequently after that.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? Dr. Sparrow and then Director Blyko.
Thank you for that. Reading the minutes, there was an area there in there said there's split use, and down further it said later on about maybe making the whole thing into a motorized thing, and that's to be clear that we pass this motion for split use, it will stay split use, and Twains Mill towards Cherry Creek will be a walking trail, and then the Beaufort side will be motorized. There's no intention of changing the designation of the walking trail on Cherry Creek. Is that correct?
Yeah, so the additional report wasn't edited. That was the report that went to the committee of the whole, and then just the cover report on there. So that mentioned in the unedited report that went to the committee, it's understood that the intention is the resolution there for the split use.
I would bring it up, but
Thank you. Dr. Blyko, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. So when we did the engagement with the public 3 years ago now, it was very clear that everybody, 80% wanted the trail motorized. Now there is a conflict, which we've greatly discussed in the boardroom in the past, in the Cherry Creek area that need to be resolved. But the underlying fact is the majority of the public wants to have this happen. So what I think we should be doing here is using the starting of this motorization in the Beaufort area, and then have this happen for 1 year and have this happen as a test case. We can use the heels before wheels template. We can set up the signage. We can put use at your own risk. We can put motorized use, and we can allow the guidance, the rules, all those things to be put in place and set up and get feedback. And then once we have it established on how this is going to work, the landowners are happy, the horse people are happy, the quad people are happy, the bicycles and everything. It still needs to get passed to the entire trail because that's what the public wants. So I'm okay with this recommendation, but at the same time, I'd like to put a time limit on it to revisit this discussion in 1 year from now, or maybe a year and a half maximum, after the election, to see how this has gone for Beaufort and how this can be adapted for Cherry Creek and go from there. So make it happen, get the rules in place, get feedback from all user groups, volunteers, etc., and say, okay, how is this going? And how can we effectively transport this to the entire trail? That is what the public has directed us to do in our guidance and what we have previously voted on that we will be doing. So I would like to make that amendment to the motion and also set the guidance boundary at, if we're going to do this like this, it's at the Beaufort and Cherry Creek electoral area boundary. Have a sign there, have a say no quads past here and walk past here. So 2 amendments. Thank you.
Okay, would you be willing to just have those as criteria or as a second motion after this motion? Like to like, because it sounds like a plan should be put up because you were talking about citizen engagement during. So if we put the plan in place and then we have a second motion to make sure that there's resources used to collect that info and then
I
be
think
presented?
we got this regional trails working group that needs some guidance and what they need to do. We need to use them for what they're supposed to be doing for, which is original plan of what are the rules and what are the signs going to look like to have horses and quads and people interact properly. So we need to give them guidance and say, go give us this information and let's implement it and make it work. Take the feedback from that, which is going to be very obvious to everybody very quickly on if this is working or not.
Okay. Okay, so we still would need to collect that, even if it's obvious, in order to make it like official engagement and feedback. I think we should still assign staff to pay attention to that stuff throughout the next 18 months or whatever it is you.
I would say let's do it for 18 months. That gives time for data to be collected, for this plan to be implemented, lessons to be learned, and then after the next election, then this can be implemented and put a date on this that we will revisit this in April 2026, 27.
Okay. So we can't fetter a future government from doing whatever the heck they want, but it sounds like a good intention. So maybe we should move and second this motion and then have a follow-up with that work afterwards to make sure that it happens at least in the amount of time that we have with this term of office, so that that information could be presented either at the end of this term or some amount of months into the next term.
I think that's valid. Thank you.
Okay. Would anyone like to have a comment or move the motion first and then we'll go into discussion? Okay. Go ahead, Jen.
Thank you for that. And I think further to that, the only maybe suggestion based on, my memory of the committee of the whole discussion is I think 18 months is an excellent time frame to do an assessment, but maybe making a decision at this point on what the next steps would be. If we could instead just say that, in 18 months, we'll come back with an assessment of the success and then assess the options for the board. Just a suggestion.
Okay, I thought that's what was implied. I thought that's what we were going to do. Sorry. Okay. Okay. Any further comments? Director Cote, please go ahead. Oh, just moving the motion? I thought it was moved too, but I don't remember who moved it.
Director Boyko moved it, but there's no seconder yet.
Oh, okay. And Director Roth? Okay, thank you. Yeah, see, I didn't write it down, so I don't know. So, okay, so Director Boyko and Director Roth?
Yeah, do you want me to read the motion?
Is it just the one that's in the agenda?
Director Boyko made 2 amendments to that.
Okay, please go ahead.
That the ACRD Board of Directors directs staff to proceed with option 5 split use model with a northern motorized section and a southern non-motorized section, specifically at the Beaufort and Cherry Creek electoral area boundary, and develop the appropriate enforcement management plan as required by MOTT, and assess this initiative with a new board of directors in 18 months.
Okay, I didn't get the boundary one. Okay, thank you. Says, yeah, okay, seconded by Director Roth. Any further comments? Go ahead.
Thank you. I thought we discussed this committee the whole 2 weeks ago, and it was a long, arduous discussion, and we put the boundary at McLean's Mill for a reason. And that reason was because that's where the trail veers off on the old logging road, and that's where the quads can get out. If you put the boundary between Beaufort and Cherry Creek, it's just part of a trail, and there's both sides are steep right in that one spot, and there's no real way for a quad to turn around. This would make it easier for quads to veer off and go up to the logging road and across under the Beaufort. It'd make it less congested. I thought we discussed this in long terms about Cherry Creek not wanting this, because quite simply, we're getting 4-wheel drives on there now. We got another 4-wheel drive this weekend in Cold Creek, Fish Bearing Stream, bombing around, having a great time. Not on the log train trail in our area, but now Mosaic's got involved, and they have to get involved, and they have to start doing things to mitigate their liability because that's a fish bearing stream. So I know what Director Boyko was trying to say, but I'm saying right now is it's not working, and it will not work. And putting 18-month term on it for a new board is not fair. It's not fair. So I'm going to put this to bed right now, split it the way we have split the committee whole, which is a McLean's Mill, and put to bed. Why don't we use?
Okay, my apologies. I thought that was the boundary for some reason.
No, it's
Okay, okay. Director Boyko, go ahead.
Perhaps staff can tell me what the distance is from McLean's Mill to the electoral boundary, because there's several kilometers of trail in Beaufort that we're looking to exclude just because there's no offshoot there. People can drive down there and turn around and come back and have a good time and wonder, maybe in the future, their Cherry Creek friends will be allowed to use the trail as well. I think there's several kilometers there. And there's plenty of places to turn around.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. So does anyone, Michael, go ahead.
Yeah, my guess would probably be around 3 kilometers.
Yeah, so the trail's 22 kilometers. We're already excluding a portion of it. Why would we take away 20 or 30% of this trail just because there's no offshoots? People can go down there and turn around and enjoy life. And sending this to the next board is always a good idea. We can learn from what has happened here, and it'll be up to the next people to say, listen, there's issues in Cherry Creek that need to be resolved, and perhaps they can work on resolving these in the next 18 months, engage the public, and figure out a solution. There's a way to do this. Thank you.
Okay, I still don't understand the distances and the boundaries involved. Can you explain it further, Director Sparrow?
So it starts at 3 kilometer log train trails where it starts at. The 0 kilometers candy store. We don't have the first 3 kilometers. And then I have to a 7 kilometer boundary roughly, so 4 kilometers. And McLean's Mill is about 8 kilometers from a little over. So we're talking about a little over a kilometer. So I'm talking from 3 kilometer to, we'll say 8, but I don't think it's 8. I think it's less than 8. So 5 kilometer section, which has a lot of houses in that kilometer section because that's where the area of Cherry Creek is. So I'm saying that we're getting tired of the, just everything up there. Now there's 4-wheel drives up there. I showed you pictures of 4-wheel drives on the log train trail driving by people's houses. And now they're into the creeks, and they're just, the problem is it's just getting worse. So if we can put a boundary up there where they can do an offshoot, then if people want to come on tours, they can know they can go on an offshoot and go up there and don't have to go down and do a U-turn for a small section of road. And we can keep it that way, and this way we can feel comfortable with people that are want to be on and trail without seeing motorized vehicles. And I said, I thought we'd put this to bed, but obviously it's going to be rehashed and rehashed and rehashed. And I'll keep fighting for the Cherry Creek people every single time. So the answer is, well, I'm going to vote no. Keep Cherry Creek area the way it is right now legally, which is not a motorized area. And that's what it should be. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that clarification. I have Director Haggard and then Director Boyko.
Thank you, Chair Jack. I will be supporting the original recommendation, which is what was moved by the Committee of the Whole. I will not be supporting the suggested amendments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Director Boyko?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Now I'm just looking back at how many kilometers are actually in here that we're looking to exclude from the Beaufort area from this trail. So it's about 2.5 kilometers, so about 15%. So I'm willing to concede, but at the same time, assuming that the people that own the other roads are going to welcome quads is a whole other step. But I still feel that the people of Cherry Creek and Beaufort that said 80% of them want this motorized want this to happen. So if we want to have this in McLean Mill, I'll leave it there. But at the same time, we still need to revisit this when there's a new board, and that gives time for the directors, the people that live there to come together and find a solution to make it work. So I will omit the first one to change the boundary. I'll leave it at McLean's Mill for now, and then we can expand it in the future. But the future expansion still needs to be in place to say, listen, we've learned lessons in the past 18 months, and moving forward, we will have the ability with a new board, and they can listen to us or not. It's whatever happens, right? Whatever the people elect on whether they want to revisit this or not. But I want to leave that option there. Thank you.
Okay, so we could do an amending motion to the original motion to return it to its original, or we could just defeat the motion, do the original motion, and then have the addendum of the 18-month study period. So I'll leave that to the board. We might just want to like just defeat this motion and then redo it, and then do a next motion for that review period. And then that doesn't change the boundaries or anything like that. It's just the original motion. That might be just the quickest way to do it. Because when you start layering motions on top of each other for amendments, it just gets funky. Michael?
Apologies for adding confusion here, but I think the original intent of the motion that at the cow, as I understood it, was to not formally establish this specific location quite yet, and move forward with the investigation and the preparation of this, and establish that specific location at a later time after the Regional Parks Working Group and Ministry of Transportation provided feedback.
Yeah, so the work would still happen, and I think it's just the additional work is the citizen engagement, so we can still do that as a separate motion. Yeah? Okay. Let's just defeat this motion and re-rack it, and then we'll do the engagement as a separate motion right after, just so that we make sure that we're doing it, if that's okay. I mean, it's your choice at that point, but I'll just declare, or I'll just ask, all those in favor of the motion as it's been put forward? Okay, all opposed? Okay, motion defeated. Would anyone like to move the original motion? Thank you, Director Boyko, seconded by Director Sparrow. Any further comments? Director Cote?
Thank you. I don't want to make this any longer, but I'm still having concerns regarding the suitable enforcement plan. I haven't seen one. So I know that the province has they undertook a review of our updated management plan, existing lease agreement, and have said that unfortunately an education campaign, if that's what we're planning on, does not provide suitable protection and assurance to their agency. So I'm not sure how we're going to pass this by the province. If we don't have, I haven't seen a plan yet for how we're going to monitor and cover the liability. Like who's going to be enforcing, and so I'm just concerned about that. Thanks.
Thank you. Do you want to take that?
Good question, since the committee of the whole, and that was our concern as well. Because of that feedback, we called the province, we've had initial discussions, and we're confident that we're going to have a path forward with option 5. So we checked on that first. So we will be putting an enforcement plan together that is above education, but also I think it's not going to be onerous. So we've discussed that, and we feel comfortable that we can do this successfully.
Thank you. So will the enforcement be on the Cherry Creek side or the Beaufort side for the motorized vehicles, or to keep them off? So I'm just wondering what we're going to be, how we can enforce it and what we're enforcing. Thanks.
We're going to develop those details, but we know that there's a path forward. So we'll come up with a plan. We'll have a plan for that. We have to basically enforce the motorized use. So if the Cherry Creek side is staying unmotorized, we will be having to address issues when they come up if there's going to be motorized vehicles there, but then also making sure that they're following the rules on the motorized side.
I think that's a to be continued kind of conversation. Yeah. Okay, Director Boyko?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, Director Cote brings up a good point. There is no enforcement plan in place, but this directs staff to work with the Regional Parks Working Group to come up with one, and it will come to the board, I believe, for approval before it finally comes out. But that is the point moving forward. And we've talked to various user groups, and they're all said, "Yep, let's figure it out and go."
Yeah. So that's kind of in this original motion, so that'll be there. Yeah.
So I'm just pointing out that needs to be finalized before we complete the budget, because there's going to be cost associated with that. Thanks.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, any further comments on the original motion? No, this is the original motion, and then we're just going to do the engagement motion right after. Yeah. Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? All opposed? Okay, motion carried. Thank you. And then, so the original motion that is in our agendas has been passed. Now, Director Boyko, if you want to move like I don't know what to call it because it's like citizens, residents, and users engagement. So
I would say that we'll call it, yeah, exactly what you say, citizens, residents, users, people that are user groups, volunteers. Gather some feedback in 18 months, send something to the board, and look at taking those learnings to apply to the area of the log train trail that is not motorized, to have it motorized, because that is what the people have directed us to do. Thank you.
okay, and that's directing staff to do that, and then we can work on working with or connecting with other regional districts and communities to see what the government folks are doing. So I can try to set something up with Mark and others at CUTHET as well. Do we have a seconder for the motion? Thank you, Director Roth. Any further comments? Director Sparrow.
So 18 months from when? From now?
From,
Today?
I think just from today.
Well,
From
then
today.
it could be a year and a half where we get from Modi authorization to do our plan, which gives us 6 months worth of quality feedback. So it's not going to work. We need 18 months after the Modi plan, after it's in place, and after we have all our liability figured out in order to engage proper feedback. I mean, if it takes 17 months for Modi to come back, we have no feedback. We have no way to move forward. We have to do it after everything's been finalized and agreed to, and a start point's been indicated. Then you can start a timeline. You can't start a timeline now. It doesn't make any sense. It'll never, ever get to a point where you have proper feedback. Does that make sense?
So when this goes forward, which is something we've decided, and we've already got information from the Ministry of Transportation that there is a way forward on this option 5. So peg it from when it starts officially. So would maybe from the beginning of the budget then, because they're going to get back to us sooner than a year.
I'd say to get either when Modi finally says, yes, we like your plan, and the board agrees to the plan, or the budget, whichever comes latest, in order to get a full 18 months. Because right now the clock is ticking and we have no plan. It's ridiculous. And if, quite honestly, I'm going to say no anyway, because the Cherry Creek people have said, they've come to this board repeatedly saying, no, not in our neighborhood. The rest of the trail is fine. The whole Beaufort's fine. We want a few kilometers. And we're fighting for a few kilometers, and we're fighting an uphill battle for a few kilometers to have peace in our neighborhood. This is getting to a point of being ridiculous. Now, in 18 months from now, there won't be any time to get the data you need, to get the report you need, to get through it. So you need to get Modi to agree. We actually have a bylaw or something in place that we can enforce, start enforcing it before we can actually start taking data. Otherwise, it's useless.
Okay, so my understanding is that the information would be collected within that window and wouldn't start at that window, so that there would still be time for your residents and owners and that sort of thing to interface with this whole thing as well. Michael, please go ahead.
Yeah, I think that like the clock kind of starts ticking on like real world on the ground changes after the Modi lease update. So if we're looking at, a time when we can look at a window, it's when that lease update is ratified.
Okay. So that's when the plan starts. So I guess that makes sense. Director Boyko, is that sufficient?
So have 18 months from when it is approved? Honestly, whatever we decide now is going to be determined by the next board anyways. So I'd say, yeah, give it 18 months from now, and from when the board approves the final thing with the feedback from Modi, and we have an enforcement plan and go. And then it'll be up to the next board to say, listen, this is a recommendation, but if you want to do it in 1 month after you're done elected, or 1 year, that is up to the next board. Thank you.
Okay. So let's interpret it from when we get the go-ahead of it being okay from the provinces, like the start of it then, because we wouldn't be able to action any plan without their say-so. That's my understanding. Yeah. Daniel?
I think that's reasonable, given that the provincial approval is going to be contingent on our enforcement plan. So the plan will be developed for the province to say yes, which means that we'll be dangerously close to rollout. There might be signage installation, whatnot, but all that is negligible in an 18-month frame.
Yeah, because the intention is to test the new plan for an X amount of time and then have a check-in. And it may change, it may not change. And also we're asking a future government to agree with this plan. So that may not happen at all, has been pointed out. So this is an intention motion. So I think that's part of it. Director Sparrow?
Thank you. And just to be clarified, it's when the Modi plan is passed by the board, not given to us, because then you have a firm start date.
Yes.
Because the board may
Yeah,
modify.
the
plan.
province is the primary marker when the province gives the go-ahead. So we've already done the work on developing the plan. So Director Boyko's point was that we should test this plan to see if people even like it, because he wants to hear from residents and users and that sort of thing. And then we would review that feedback in some way, shape, or form after that review period. And that goes beyond this next term of office, so we can't tell the next board what to do, but we can set expectations, which sets up a conversation for the election, I think, which is the point, I think.
I think it's going to be an ongoing issue because obviously my area does not want it, and one area is pushing their will in my area. So we're going to be smashing heads continuously. So
yeah, and that's the difficulty when it comes to the interactions between, especially electoral areas, because the electoral areas depend on the other electoral areas to agree, because not any one of them are sovereign, because if they were, then they would have incorporated. Right. It's a different conversation, Director.
Oh, we're getting there.
Okay. Thank you. Dr. Siga, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Yeah, anytime we go through the engagement process again with it's costing money, and we're looking into the future to plan future engagement. And I do believe, and this would be a question to Michael through the chair, that there would be an evaluation of all of the work that is being done in any case. So I would expect that a report from Michael on the progress and the feedback he's getting from public would be sufficient as opposed to putting requirements on the next board for this type of feedback. That's my take on it. So yeah, I would have to not vote in favor of this futuristic thing.
Okay, thank you for that. Dr. Roth?
The log train trail doesn't go through Beaver Creek, although it seems like it might. And personally, I'm really interested on how something like this would work out. I think it's a really smart move to do a trial. If it doesn't work out, then I would like to look at divesting, because that's another option too. So, yeah, the original plan was all inclusive, accommodating ETDs and diverse uses. That inclusivity has been removed and it's reduced the shared value. So yeah, I like the idea of giving it a test. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So the next the item on the floor is the review period and that intention. So that's what's been moved. Any further comments on that? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor? All opposed? The motion is the review period. Okay. All in favor? Okay. All opposed? Okay, so the motion is carried. Thank you. Okay. Thank you, and please continue.
Through the chair. And apologies about the order of these because we're now going back to the linear asset report. So I'll just give a little spiel, like without consideration of the previous motions that was passed at the earlier report. But this report goes into the identified 3 bridges on the Log Train Trail that currently have failed components and pose a risk user safety. So this report outlines the existing deficiencies and the recommendations to bring these structures back to meeting, a minimum safety standard, along with two options for moving forward. Would take the ACRD taking the lead in performing the repairs, utilizing a mix of formal volunteers and contracted professionals. And option number two would be to, sign the bridges as, unsafe and pursue only utilizing volunteer resources to repair the structure. Now, we did pass motions about, legal review earlier that may, impact, how we want to address this, but happy to open the discussion.
Thank you. Any further comments, Director Boyko?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Our previous motion about getting a staff report in the next 2 months by January on how volunteer resources are used in other areas, and we can work on a plan to get proper engagement with people if we need to get them trained up, and we'll have liability answers by then instead of assumptions. That will be great, and then we can actually action what we want to do here. So I would like to make a motion that we table this discussion until we have those 2 reports back in the next 2 months, and then we will action this and move forward and also have an action plan for any future repairs at that point. Thank you.
Okay, seconded by Director Roth. Any further comments? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor? All opposed? Okay, motion carried. Thank you. Okay. That brings us to the next item for Alex is going to take it. Regional Water Governance and Watershed Assessment Study Funding Opportunity. Thank you, and please go ahead.
Thank you so much. Through the chair, this is a request from West Coast Aquatic that the ACRD support a grant application to the Watershed Security Fund to continue the work of the SOMAS Fish Flow Committee. If the funding is secured, the project would focus on continuing to develop the governance model for that committee and enable further work on water balance modeling and the feasibility of high priority engineering improvements to the dam infrastructure on Great Central Lake. So the ACRD staff would provide a letter of support, assist with the grant application, and then continue participating as a partner agency in the committee. There would be no direct financial cost to the regional district other than planning staff continuing to participate. So staff recommend that the board provide their support to West Coast Aquatic, and happy to answer any questions.
Dr. Roth?
I would like to make the motion.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Dr. Cote. Any further comments? Dr. Cote.
Just that this is a very worthwhile study that's going on. Water management, I keep pressing that, is important to the valley for our future. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Cote. I think you've been asking for this, for something like this for a while. It's good that we have a grant opportunity. Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? All opposed? Okay, motion carried. Thank you. All right, that brings us to the last item in non-planning matters. So it's a bylaw for the financial plan amendment for Beaver Creek Fire Department. Ooh, extrication combination. Cool. Who would like to take this? Dr. Roth?
Sure, I would like to make the motions. Did you want me to read it out or?
Yeah, just do the first reading and then you can say second reading, third reading.
Okay. I move that the Alberni Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors give first reading to the bylaw cited as bylaw F1170-4, 2025 to 2029 Alberni Clayoquot Regional District Financial Plan Amendment.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Director Sparrow. Any further comments? Seeing none. All those in favor? All opposed? The motion carried.
I move second reading.
Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Director Steer. Any further comments? Seeing none. All those in favor? All opposed? Motion carried.
I move third reading.
Seconded by Director Steer. Any further comments? Seeing none. All those in favor? Motion carried.
And I move adoption.
Thank you. And seconded by Director Sparrow. Comments? Seeing none. All those in favor? Motion carried. Thank you for your presentation, Charlie.
very
Okay. You're very good at your job. Okay, I'm going to follow Heather Zenner here, and I'm going to call for a 5-minute break. Actually, let's come back right at 4 o'clock. I really need to use the washroom, and I think there are others who might need to as well. So we'll be back at 4 for planning matters. Thank you.
Good.
All right, thank you, everyone. Thank you for tolerating my knee diesel. So this brings us into planning matters. So Indigenous and district directors, please stick around because you do count for quorum in this matter. But we do have a couple of items. They look like they just require some amendments to bylaws and then a couple of other decisions afterwards. So first up, we have an item for Sprout Lake, and that will be taken by Alex. So please go ahead, Alex.
Thank you very much. This is a public hearing report for a rezoning application at 7775 Pacific Rim Highway in the Sprout Lake area. Bylaws P1526 and P1527 would rezone the property to acreage residential RA3 district and redesignate the parcel to residential use in the Sprout Lake OCP. The amendments would reflect a change in use of the property from a mix of historical commercial uses to what is now a residential focus. The public hearing was held on October 28th, and no members of the public participated in the hearing. Staff do recommend the board receive public hearing minutes and report and proceed with second and third readings of the bylaws. There are a few conditions of rezoning that will need to be resolved prior to staff recommending that the board adopt the bylaws. These include the discharge of a covenant, the confirmation of sewage capacity, and approval by the province under the Transportation Act, and those are detailed in the report. The recommended resolutions are presented in the staff report. I will highlight that the last resolution presented in the report should be that the board give third reading to bylaw P1527, as both bylaws are recommended for second and third readings at this time. So happy to answer any questions.
So to hear you correctly, the zoning atlas will need to be read a third time, and that's just not on here?
That's correct. It says a second time twice. So it'll be read a second time and then read a third time.
Thank you for pointing that out.
No worries. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, Director Cote.
Okay, thank you. I'll get to it here. Move that the Alberni Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors receive the public hearing report.
Thank you, seconder. Thank you, Director Sparrow. Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll move that the Alberni Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors receive the public hearing minutes.
Thank you. Seconded by Director Sparrow. Thank you. Any comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion carried. Thank you.
I'll move that bylaw P1526 Sprout Lake Official Community Plan Amendment Bylaw be read a second time.
Thank you. Seconded by Director Sparrow. Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion carried. Thank you.
I'll move that bylaw P1526 Sprout Lake Official Community Plan Amendment Bylaw be read a third time.
Thank you. Seconded by Director Sparrow. Any further comments? Seeing none. All those in favor? Motion carried. Thank you.
I will move that bylaw P1527 Regional District of Alberni Clayoquot Zoning Atlas Amendment Bylaw be read a second time.
Seconded by Director Sparrow. Any further comments? Seeing none. All those in favor? Motion carried.
And I will move that bylaw P1527 Regional District of Alberni Clayoquot Zoning Atlas Amendment Bylaw be read a third time.
Thank you. Seconded by Director Sparrow. Further comments? Seeing none. All those in favor? Motion carried. Thank you. So just as a reminder, we'll have adoption after certain criteria are verified by staff at the next meeting or further beyond. Okay, thank you for that. That brings us to the next agenda item. Item B is for Beaver Creek. Please go ahead, Alex.
Thank you very much. This is a development variance application for the property at 5663 Mercy Road. This relates to a 3-lot subdivision of the 0.9 hectare property. Variance would reduce the minimum lot width in the RA3 district for proposed lots 2 and 3 and would reduce the rear yard setback to support the siting of the existing house located on proposed lot 1. Variance application is one of the final steps required in the subdivision approval process. The board had looked at this application on October 8th and resolved to proceed with the neighbor notification process. That has now been completed and no correspondence was received from the public. And at this time, staff recommend that the board issue the development variance. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Roth?
Sure. I move that Alberni Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors issue development variance permit DBE 25010.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Director Cote. Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? All opposed? The motion carried. Thank you. The next item is item C. It has to do with Cherry Creek. Please go ahead, Alex. Oh, wait. Yes, sorry, Kylie. It is right in front of me. Sorry.
No worries.
Please go ahead, Kylie.
So this is a temporary use permit application for a property located at 3640 Fletcher Road in the Cherry Creek area. So the temporary use permit would allow for the use of a recreational vehicle as a temporary residence on the property, which also includes a residential duplex structure. The RV is connected to water and on-site sewer services and is being used as a temporary residence for a short-term basis. So the board considered this application on the 8th of October 2025 meeting and resolved to proceed with the neighbor notification process. A notice was advertised in the Alberni Valley News on October 29th and November 5th and delivered to neighboring residents and property owners on October 22nd. One letter of support from a neighbor was received. So the terms of the temporary use permit include a maximum of one RV on the property, one off-street parking space dedicated for the RV use, no short-term vacation rental use or commercial use on the property, connection to services, and the availability of a caretaker on site. So the applicants have provided an assessment from a registered on-site wastewater practitioner confirming that the existing 3-year-old septic system can safely accommodate sewage disposal from both the RV and the existing duplex. And so staff recommend that the board issue the temporary use permit. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Director Sparrow?
Thank you. I'd like to make the motion that the Alberni Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors issue temporary use permit TUP 25012.
Thank you. Do a seconder? Thank you, Director Roth. And comments? Director Boyko, please go ahead.
Well, thank you. I was going to second it too, but I still don't understand the mechanism of we can say a temporary use permit overrides the BC Building Code to allow full-time occupancy in an RV. Now, we had one last meeting and we have one this meeting. I would say prepared for this flood to continue of these decisions coming at us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm thinking that is it our job to enforce BC Building Code, or is that a provincial matter?
That's up to the building inspector, and I believe that is a ACRD matter.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Thank you for that. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none. All those in favor? All opposed? Okay, motion carried. Thank you. Thank you, Kylie. All right, that brings us into reports. There are no staff reports for the first time in a long time, actually. There are no committee reports. That's the next meeting. Area reports. So that brings us into going around the table. Electoral Area A, Bamfield. Dr. Beckett, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to speak about the challenges that Bamfield, continues to address, albeit things certainly are improving. The biggest thing is the communications with respect to the Bamfield Road, temporary closures, partial closures, and certainly we've experienced some challenges with Ministry of Transportation and especially Drive BC, but it's not for lack of ACRD staff in attempting to improve the communication situation. And I would say things are improving. We're grateful for that. It's critical that our communities at both ends have factual, accurate information on the status of the road. So at any rate, yep, things are improving. It's good to get back to some form of normalcy. And even though I've addressed or identified some concerns, I'm still grateful for all the support that we are receiving from the province. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that. That brings us to electoral area B, Beaufort. Dr. Boyko.
Thank you, Chair. Everything's going good in the Beaufort area. We are looking forward to the implementation of the motorized log train trail in a timely manner. At the same time, there's lots of rain happening. All the irrigation is put away. People are preparing for winterization of all their systems and looking forward to a uneventful storm season compared to what we had last year. Thank you.
Here, here. Electoral area C, Long Beach. Dr. Siga, please go ahead.
No report, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Electoral area D, Sprout Lake. Dr. Cote, please go ahead.
Thank you. Sprout Lake is water's rising with the precipitation that we're receiving. For the last 2 weeks, I guess, there's been a sailboat that has been just floating around in the lake. Everybody keeps looking at it, and everybody's afraid to touch it because they're afraid that they're going to all of a sudden be tagged to it and have to take ownership of some sort. And I haven't heard back if anybody's actually contacted whoever the province, whoever's supposed to look after issues like this, but it sounds like a derelict boat. Apparently there's a bunch of garbage on it, and never know what to do with these things that are floating around. It could end up either smashing on the beach and creating an environmental disaster crisis happening, or going down the river, taking out the fish ladder, or doing damage downriver. So bringing that to the regional district's attention, not that we can do anything, it's out of our jurisdiction, but it's just something that's happening at Sprout Lake, and that's about it. Thanks.
Okay, thank you for that. That brings us to electoral area E, Beaver Creek. Dr. Roth.
Thank you. I don't have anything to report.
Thank you for that. That brings us to electoral area F, Cherry Creek. Dr. Sparrow.
Thank you for that. The last little while about Cherry Creek, we had the Halloween, we had fireworks, which doesn't look like a big deal unless you don't have fireworks. I met people from the Nanaimo and Vancouver that were kind of impressed that we do that kind of stuff still. And impressed how close they actually get to the fireworks, because it's, you know, pretty close. But yeah, I had fun and they really enjoyed themselves, so that's good. Keeping the way it is. A few other things. I heard that the motocross, their shed, what I call the roof structure they have, was caught on fire a couple of days ago by some kids that were out there. So some damage under there, and that's outside of fire protection zone. So had it put out by the volunteers of the motocross pit. So there was some damage down there. So that's unfortunate. And also in the same area, we have 4-wheel drives, like I mentioned earlier, in the creek, and we have 4-wheel drives on the log train trail that we own in that area. So for all the stewardship of the log train trail, we're finding that there are those that don't understand what the rules are right now and taking advantage of it. And as we move forward, be careful what we do with it, because it is a neighborhood we're in. It's not in the rural area. So that's it. So like that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. Next up is City of Port Alberni. Dr. Minion. Okay. Let's go after. Dr. Minions, please go ahead.
I was just going to say no report. I'll defer to Director Haggard. Thanks.
Okay, Dr. Haggard.
Thank you. I don't have a reporter in the city, but Chair Jack, you didn't give me a chance at the beginning to say thank you to the board for allowing me to hold the position of vice chair for another year and having the confidence in me to continue the work that we do. And also want to recognize and thank Chair Jack for his leadership and his mentorship and his friendship. I've learned so much from you over the last 3 years, and I look forward to working with you again for another year. And I really appreciate the relationships I've built with not only the board members, but the staff, and also members, community stakeholders, and the First Nations that I've worked hard to develop over the last 3 years. These relationships really mean a lot to me, and I look forward to continuing to build those relationships. And we have a lot of work to do in the coming year, so I'm looking forward to getting some things done. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And it skipped my mind. I didn't even thank everyone. Either, so, yeah. All right. Thank you, Dr. Haggard. Dr. Cote.
Thank you. Director Sparrow reminded me that Sprout Lake Fire Department actually had a haunted fire hall this year. Held it for 2 nights, Thursday and before Halloween and the Halloween Friday was very successful. They ran out of hot dogs and candy the first night, so had to cough up some more funds for the next night. Yeah, I think it's really great that our fire halls are doing community support and events like this. So, and I want to also point out that Alex Sam spearheaded that. Thanks.
Great, thank you for that. That brings us to the District of Tofino, Director Steer.
Yes, thank you through the chair. Just the big thing for us right now, the district, of course, is budget. As I'm sure everyone is aware, that is full on right now. And then I just wanted to comment on our Remembrance Day celebration once again. Whitey Bernard, who's our oldest, as he likes to tell us, our oldest citizen there at 90 years old. But he's also quite famous for the photograph of his father walking in 19. Can't remember the exact year, don't quote me. And he was there again, so that was great to see. And his grandson has taken on the role as MC. It was very well attended, and just a wonderful gathering of community.
Great, thank you for that. Next up is District of Ucluelet, Mayor McEwen.
Thank you, Chair. And congratulations on your re-election, both you and Director Haggard. Yesterday, I had the privilege of emceeing our Remembrance Day ceremony for the third year in a row. Well attended. It didn't rain, so that was wonderful. And the Army, Navy, Air Force puts on a huge complimentary lunch for the community afterwards, and it was really well attended yesterday. This morning, I attended the Parks and Recreation Master Plan Council workshop. The consultants have done many months of research and public engagement, and today was a chance for them to connect with council to look for strategic direction and priority setting. So that was a 3-hour workshop this morning. And this coming weekend, I sit on the Tourism Ucluelet Board of Directors. That's our DMO. And we always have an annual retreat, a weekend retreat in November. That's happening this weekend. And normally we go to Tofino, to Pacific Sands, but this year we thought we would go to Bamfield to give Bamfield a little love and some commerce. We were hoping to go by boat, but the conditions aren't looking great, so I'm thinking we're going to have to carpool out there. We're going to the west side to Pacific Sounds is where we'll be staying, and eating at the local little restaurant there, the Wreckage, I believe it's called. And so looking forward to that. The weekend retreat that we have every November with this board is really a great opportunity to get to know each other a little bit better, but to do some strategic planning for the coming year as well. So if you're in Bamfield, Bob, I might see you there.
That's great, thank you. The next report is for Hoyt. So we're knee deep in strategic planning and eventually budgeting as well. The biggest thing we have coming up right now is our People's Assembly is slated for the 22nd, I think it is, whatever the Saturday is. So that's when we report to our people in regards to everything we've done, how the audit for the previous fiscal year went, answer questions about what our future plans may be, as well as debate anything where they have statutory decision making, like selecting the auditor, appointing to certain bodies, as well as any amendments we may make to a piece of legislation that demands it. So it's also has a cultural component to it. We're doing it as a 2-day event this time around. The first day is Friday, and we'll be doing reports to citizens about things that don't need decisions, and then we'll go more into the business on the Saturday. Last week or the week before, feels like the week before, so it's probably just last week, attended the First Nations Leadership Gathering, which is the First Nations equivalent of UBCM. So we talked about certain things that are relevant to the ACRD here, talked about alternate routing, the value, the importance of the Bamfield Road, and so on and so forth, and energy, power security for the region and the area, a whole plethora of things in regards to economic development and forestry. Our interests are the interests of our neighbors and the region as a whole. We understand that we're part of a community, part of an economy, that requires us all to pull together. And so we hopefully demonstrated that at the leadership gathering, and moving forward, that was good. Also attended and laid wreaths on behalf of the ACRD in Hawaiian at the Remembrance Day ceremony in Port Barney at the Glenwood Center. So it's always good to see everyone who attended there. Mayor Minions, your speech was very good, and it was good to see Dr. Boyko and his son, because I brought my daughter. I made her lay a wreath. So that was good. So thank you. And the next item is TOQUAD, if Director Johnson is still here, but she might not be. No, she's not. So we'll go to, and Mariah's not here. Director Mastrangelo, do you want to give a report for you, Clue? Might be dealing with her child at the moment. Okay. Are there any other area reports? Anything forgotten? No? Can we have a motion to receive the reports, please? Thank you, Director Roth, seconded by Director Cote. All in favor? All opposed? Okay, motion carried. Thank you. All right, that brings us to late business, of which there is none. Question period. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Director Cote.
There's something that I missed earlier. I just want to make
As a
the
part of your
board-
report?
It's just late business. AVICC is having a session on November the 27th regarding the Cowichan tribes. Any questions that you have, the due date is November the 20th. So send them to Teresa with AVICC if you have any questions.
Is that like online?
Yeah.
Is that something we can attend online?
Yes,
Do we need to register?
yes,
Okay. Can that information be sent out to
it has been.
again? Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right. That is very relevant. Thank you, Director Cote. All right, question period. Keith left, so I don't think there's any questions, and the reporter guy left too. Are there anything in the?
Yeah, there's no emails and no responses in Zoom.
Thank you. That brings us to a recess. Do we? Hospital district? Is that what it is? We don't need to recess for in camera then. No, we'll kill those. Okay, so I will move us to item 17, and I will move that we close the meeting to the public as per the community charter under section 91. A part of a board meeting may be closed to the public if the subject matter is being considered relates to or is one of more of the following. Item C, labor relations and other employee relations. We have a motion to do that? Our secondary? Thank you, Director Roth. Comments? Seeing none, all those in favor?